A little after 9 o'clock in the evening, Yi Changfeng gathered everyone together, having received the schedule and rules for the following day's competition. Elder Luo said, "We need to discuss tomorrow's situation first, and everyone should be on high alert." The rules were actually clear to everyone. The competition for the new students was divided into individual and group pioneering challenges. In the individual competition, 9 universities would compete in a round-robin format, with each one facing the others only once, meaning each university would fight 8 matches in total, for a grand total of 36 matches to be held over 2 days. At that time, the decision of whether a meridian opening or chi-controlling participant would compete was to be made by throwing dice. Tomorrow's schedule starts with Jizhou University against Yenzhou University for the first match. Our match isn't first, which is good, as everyone can observe the strength of the other schools first. However, the second match will be Qingzhou University against Liangzhou University, Yi Changfeng said. Yi Changfeng handed out a flyer to everyone, who all looked at the schedule with a solemn expression. Yu Qixin, please discuss the current strength of each school this year, Elder Luo directed. Yu Qixin glanced coldly at Xiang Beifei and then began to speak. However, there's a rule that a person can only enter a maximum of 2 matches, so when the time comes, I and the other teachers will need to analyze the situation, then decide how to allocate which of you 5 will compete and in what order against which opponents, Yu Qixin explained. This was similar to Tianji's horse racing but also quite different, because during Tianji's horse racing they competed in 3 matches, allowing for strategic play, whereas there would only be 1 match between 2 schools here, which was basically random. So the general hope was that other schools would face the strong students of other schools first, using up their 2 allotted opportunities before facing us, and then they would only be able to use their weaker students against us. Take for example Qingzhou University and Liangzhou University. Qingzhou University has 2 SSRs this year, and each person has to fight 2 matches, which means the 2 SSRs can at most fight in 4 matches. Then Yi Changfeng hoped that Qingzhou University would use these 4 opportunities for the 2 SSRs against the other 7 schools, so that by the time they faced us, they would have used up their quota and could only send SR-rank students, thus increasing our chances of winning. However, since all the academies involved were elite institutions, it was certain that the teachers leading the teams understood this logic. Therefore, when the time came to assign participants for the matches, it would become a game of psychological warfare. Until they actually competed, no one could know whether the opponents would send in strong or weak players. You should be aware by now that our school doesn't have any SSRs this year, which means we're at a disadvantage compared to other schools. In individual matches, it will be difficult for you to gain an upper hand, Yu Qixin said, his gaze fixed on Xiang Beifei. Apart from Qingzhou University, Yenzhou University, and Jizhou University, the other schools only have 1 SSR, which is just 1 meridian opening stage student. We shouldn't worry too much. After all, we have student Xiang Beifei, Shiqiao interjected timidly. The situation isn't that simple, Elder Luo said. In individual matches, there are only 8 games, and each game earns 1 point, so the total score is very important. But have you considered that the other schools, to achieve a higher total score, will definitely try to secure this 1 point at all costs, and that 1 point could almost be guaranteed against whom? Long Guoqing and the others grasped the implication. Against us? Liangzhou University? Now the other 8 schools all shared a common understanding that Liangzhou University didn't have any SSRs this year, meaning no meridian opening stage students. Therefore, to secure that essential point, they would definitely send their meridian opening SSRs to face Liangzhou University. Because if an SSR were to face another SSR from different schools, and both participants were in the meridian opening stage, one was bound to lose. If they ended up losing, it would not be worth it. But now, assuming all of Liangzhou University students were only in the late chi-controlling stage, sending a meridian opening SSR to face Liangzhou University would almost guarantee victory. Everyone wanted to pick on the perceived weaklings to get an easy point first. Yes, which means each of our opponents in the matches may be meridian opening SSRs, Elder Luo said meaningfully. This. Everyone's expressions turned grave. Elder Luo continued, "All right. Next, you 5 need to discuss how to allocate your players for the matches and how to break this deadlock." Really, Why do they have to make a simple new student competition so complicated? Ma Ziqian grumbled on the side. To the martial artists, the most straightforward method was to go head-to-head in a tough fight, which would be the most hassle-free. Because it's also a tactic, Elder Luo explained. Against unevenly matched opponents, how to arrange your players to break the deadlock and win more matches is a type of strategic command. Elite universities' competitions are not just about martial power but also all sorts of adaptability to changes, applying limited manpower most effectively. It challenges the lead teacher and tests new students as well. Cultivating this kind of thinking can also be applied to combat against desolate beast tides in the future. The martial arts colleges of elite universities are centered around training pioneers and protectors, with the fundamental thinking geared towards combat. When facing desolate beast tides, the strengths of the desolate beasts are not equal, so schools train students to use their manpower effectively to maximize their combat power. This new student competition rules might seem unfair at first glance, as a meridian opening stage may face a chi controlling stage, and the fight could be overwhelmingly one-sided, not truly reflecting the new student's actual strength. However, the reality was, when facing a desolate beast, there was never any fairness to speak of. In battles with desolate beasts, more often than not, the beasts were a bit more powerful. Thus, winning and gaining the most points actually tested the strategic coordination capabilities of the universities. Which battles to give up on, which to commit to fully, who to send against different opponents, learning when to make sacrifices, engaging in psychological warfare. Not only was it a test of courage but also intelligence. Although Elder Luo was often idle to the point of restlessness and not very serious, he had once been the commander-in-chief in Jojo Alliance's battle against the Beast Tide, and his strategic vision in commanding battles was extremely formidable. He was very clear about the original intention behind this sort of competition among the 9 elite schools. That is to say, Elder Luo had a plan on how to break through this situation, but he hadn't spelled it out, wanting Xiang Beifei and his team to think it through first. This was also a form of training. If their ideas didn't work, then Elder Luo would provide guidance. Hearing Elder Luo say this, no one could complain any longer. Yi Changfeng and Yu Qixin also sat aside, no longer speaking, but instead watching the 5 members led by Xiang Beifei. They all remained silent. After a while, Long Guocheng was the first to speak. Tomorrow's competition, our first match is in the second round, against Qingzhou University. Facing Qingzhou University, we don't know who they will send against us. Xiang Beifei said, tomorrow, the person Qingzhou University sends out will definitely be this Ho Chengguo, without any surprise. Long Guocheng asked, are you that certain? Qingzhou University has 2 SSRs and 1 UR, plus 2 SRs, and they haven't decided on a person yet. Xiang Beifei said, it will be Ho Chengguo. He had initially refused us at Liangzhou University and instead chose Qingzhou University. He must prove to everyone that not choosing Liangzhou University was the right decision, and his way of proving this is to come and defeat us personally. That makes sense. Li Zimu nodded thoughtfully. I think he was offended by you today, and he would want to get revenge. Xiang Beifei, do you have the ability to defeat Ho Chengguo? Shi Qiao asked. Xiang Beifei was silent for a moment, then nodded slightly. The faces of Long Guocheng and the others slightly improved. They now recognized Xiang Beifei and were aware of his prowess. Although this guy wasn't an SSR, his strength was absurdly strong. With him around, even if Liangzhou University couldn't match the overt strength of those 3 universities, it was still enough to stand shoulder to shoulder with the other schools. But if the other schools all send SSRs against us, we are almost guaranteed to lose. Xiang Beifei can only participate twice, meaning he can only score twice at best. But the 4 of us will almost certainly lose, Ma Ziqian said. Unless we figure out a way to prevent them from all sending their SSRs against us, Li Zimu said. They now all think we're easy targets. So how can we change their minds? Long Guocheng asked. It's simple. We must let them know that we are not that weak, Xiang Beifei said. Li Zimu caught on, saying, I get it. There has to be a meridian opening period in our school, so they won't just send meridian opening students against us. That means tomorrow against Qingzhou University, Xiang Beifei, you must go. A person could participate a maximum of 2 times, so Xiang Beifei, after going once, just needed to show a bit of his strength, enough to intimidate the people from the other schools and make them wary. Understanding that the Liangzhou University persimmon might not be so easily squashed, because if the SSRs they send out were to encounter the formidable opponents Xiang Beifei and lose, it would be a huge loss, so the other schools wouldn't just recklessly send SSRs to challenge Liangzhou University. This ability was very peculiar. Any being with sins, whether a desolate beast or a human, could be targeted by him, and then a figurative door would automatically form in his mind. Even if this door was not originally a weakness of the opponent. Just like the triangular thunderkite, a desolate beast whose original weakness was its eyes, but if Yuqishin performed the 7 deadly sins kill, Yuqishin could forcibly shift that weakness to another spot, such as moving the vital point to the tail of the triangular thunderkite. Then, if Yuqishin struck the tail of the triangular thunderkite, the beast would surely die. This ability is incredible. Forcibly changing an opponent's weak spot? Xiang Beifei was quite right. I heard that originally 2 SSR Awakeners were supposed to come to our Liangzhou University, but since Liangzhou University admitted an N level, those 2 SSRs looked down on our Liangzhou University and went to other elite schools. Wouldn't that school be furious? Losing 2 SSRs over an N-level student. Exactly. This N-level Awakener really causes trouble. Just then, Xiang Beifei exclaimed in surprise, because he noticed a figure suddenly appearing behind the baby. This figure almost teleported there, holding a sword, exuding a powerful aura, ignoring the tentacles. It was Yi Changfeng. Yi Changfeng frowned as he looked at the baby, then slashed at the baby with his sword. The baby seemed to react, but before it could turn around, Yi Changfeng's sword had already cut the baby in half. However, the baby didn't dissipate. After being split, countless tentacles burst out of its body, merging into the surrounding tentacles. Seeking death, Yi Changfeng gripped his sword and slashed forward again. This slash was like lightning, mixed with a terrifying force. The fierce sword chi extended hundreds of meters, actually splitting the sky full of tentacles with a crack. After the tentacles were split, they tried to merge again, but soon countless sword chis exploded between them. Boom! 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 All the tentacles failed to escape under Yi Changfeng's slash and were utterly destroyed throughout the city. The tentacles were shredded by the sword chi, and the remaining tentacles began shrinking in fear towards the ground, quickly disappearing from sight. Stay here. Don't wander off. Yi Changfeng threw his sword up, and the Long Yuan's sword hung above the 3 of them as if protecting them, while another sword appeared in his hand. With a step, he flickered through space and disappeared into thin air. Luckily, Mr. Yi arrived. Fan Kai breathed a sigh of relief, as without Mr. Ye's timely arrival, they might have truly been doomed. But Sun Yushan didn't quite understand, saying, "What kind of desolate beast is this? Anyway, how come we've never seen it before?" They had trained in the cultivated domain for 3 years, and they knew roughly what types of desolate beasts existed there. Some desolate beasts were powerful, but none had ever been as troublesome as this one, and today they almost left their lives here. Xiang Beifei pondered for a moment, then turned to Xiaohei and said, "Xiaohei, you should be able to take him out of this space, right?" Xiaohei nodded. This was a system-created space, and no power of the system could trap Xiaohei. It could leave the system's confines whenever it wished. Then first take him out of this space, let him stay in the forest, Xiang Beifei said. This isolated island might harbor other dangers, but if it injured Lu Gui to this extent, keeping him here would be unsafe. They had better drop him off in the forest outside. Xiaohei jumped onto Lu Gui, and with a little stomp on his body, Lu Gui's body started to appear strange. Xiang Beifei could still see him, but he could also see the forest floor outside the space. That should do it. Xiao Ma and the others might come to look for him in the forest. We need to continue searching for others. Lu Gui's current condition should prevent him from being harmed by any desolate beast on this island. Xiang Beifei needed to hurry and find Lu Jiwei and Hiyun. Host. Qiu Shengmei. You are level Check-in system. Realm. Mid-heavenly connection. This is an incredibly powerful system. As long as you reach a place, you can check in, and during the check-in, a random reward is obtained. These rewards could be a cultivation technique, some kind of pill, a weapon, a magical treasure, or even high-tech stuff, all sorts of bizarre items. You checked in at the Alliance building and obtained 5 great restorative pills. Check-in value plus 67. You checked in at the basketball court and obtained the Square Dance King ability. Check-in value plus 192. You checked in on the balcony and obtained a divinely assisted space. Check-in value plus 250. You checked in at the toilet and obtained 5 laxatives. Check-in value plus 38. A place can be checked into once a day, with a daily limit of 100 times. Besides being able to check in reality, she could also travel to famous locations in novel worlds to check in. You transformed into a floor-sweeping nun in the Water Moon Nunnery Legend novel and checked in at the Guanyin Hall. Obtaining the Thousand-Handed Guanyin, check-in value plus 50. You transformed into a palace made in the Invincible East novel and checked in at the Cold Palace. Obtaining the Sunflower Manual, check-in value plus 51. Lady Chiu had checked into many novel worlds already, like checking in at the Taoist Temple's library as an apprentice, checking in at the Great Qin Cold Palace as a queen consort, checking in at the Li family mansion as a servant, checking in at the public toilet as a cleaning worker. So many highlights. The names alone are quite enticing. Lady Chiu could not only directly obtain rewards from her check-ins, but also collected various check-in values under different circumstances, which she could then use to exchange for items in the system mall. Besides that, the check-in system sometimes even allowed her to randomly acquire other people's abilities during the check-ins. You checked in at the SSR level office of Sun Hushuan, obtaining 151 points of Sun Hushuan's cultivation. Check-in value plus 151. This system is really awesome. Xiang Beifei frowned when he saw Sun Hushuan. Sun Hushuan was the head of the Alliance Pioneer Department, a department Xiang Beifei was very familiar with, having helped him and Elder Luo many times. In the Alliance, he was one of the representatives of the Leisure faction, definitely a thorn in Lady Chiu's side. Little did he expect that Lady Chiu had plundered his cultivation. However, he discovered that this plundering was random. Sometimes it resulted in plundering, and other times it gave random rewards, making it unpredictable. Xiang Beifei had previously seen Lady Chiu's check-in system, but at that time his cultivation was not sufficient to see the specific abilities of this system. But now he could clearly understand this ability. When Lady Chiu saw Xiang Beifei, her heart suddenly jolted. She didn't know when Xiang Beifei had appeared there. "It's you." Lady Chiu's expression darkened. A hint of killing intent flashed in her eyes. She had wanted to eliminate Xiang Beifei for a long time. After all, this young man's talent was terribly high, outrageously so, and given time, he could very possibly become the next Luo Yunxian. Lady Chiu would not allow Xiang Beifei to grow stronger. But lately, Xiang Beifei had been consistently practicing and rarely showed his face. When he did appear, it was usually with Luo Yunxian, giving Lady Chiu no chance to strike. She had not expected this youngster to actually come looking for her alone. "Tired of living, dare to seek me out alone," Lady Chiu said coldly. "Are you sure?" Xiang Beifei gestured towards the furiously looming figure of Elder Luo not far away. Lady Chiu's demeanor fluctuated. "I can directly obliterate you from this distance. Can he stop me?" Lady Chiu sneered. "You can give it a try," Xiang Beifei said calmly. Lady Chiu sneered as she shot a glance at Luo Yunxian, suddenly having a thought. "Then you are mistaken, I really dare to." Lady Chiu instantly waved her hand, transporting Xiang Beifei into a system space. When they appeared again, they were in a magnificently gleaming Water Moon Nunnery, but the atmosphere inside the temple was terribly bleak. Corpses lay everywhere on the ground. Xiang Beifei thoroughly examined the system interface. Current system space. Water Moon Nunnery check-in for 10 years. Unrivaled. Novel world. Novel world introduction. Transformed into a novice nun at Water Moon Nunnery. Starting with the Thousand-Handed Guanyin from a check-in at the Quiet Meditation Hall. intending to quietly become stronger with check-ins. Yet a decade later, a battle between good and evil ensued. The righteous path fell into disarray, and the demon sect wreaked havoc across the land, slaughtering the innocent on their way to attack Water Moon Nunnery, advancing all the way to the Quiet Meditation Hall. You, sweeping at the entrance of the Quiet Meditation Hall, looked up and stretched, ready to show off. This is the current situation within the system space. And the scenario to which Lady Chiu had brought Xiang Beifei was right amidst the great battle between good and evil. At this moment, the demonic qi outside the Quiet Meditation Hall was overwhelming. Numerous ferocious demons, each with eccentric hairstyles and carrying soul-summoning banners and ghost-faced sabers, completely surrounded the Water Moon Nunnery. The ground was already littered with countless corpses, and the neighboring Shaolin Temple had become ruins. Water Moon Nunnery was the last sanctuary, yet it was perilously close to destruction. Xiang Beifei pondered thoughtfully as he read the brief. Invincible Overlord, this name at first listen, has a real vintage feel to it. In my divinely assisted space, that is not for you to decide. Lady Chiu waved her hand. The Invincible East, who was attacking the Water Moon Nunnery, suddenly turned his head with a chilling aura, directing his gaze uniformly towards Xiang Beifei. Now that the righteous have been nearly slaughtered, are you the last hope of the righteous? Is it you who wants to stop me from destroying the Water Moon Nunnery? Invincible East looked at Xiang Beifei with disdain. Eh? Are you talking about me? Xiang Beifei asked in confusion. Boy, you indeed have great courage, daring to stand against me at this time. But if you think you can vanquish demons and defend the path, and protect the Water Moon Nunnery, let's see if you have the capability. Invincible East sneered. Oh, you want to enter the Water Moon Nunnery? This way, please. Xiang Beifei stepped aside. The people here were not real anyway. It did not matter if they died. Invincible East was stunned. What was happening? Why was there such a cowardly righteous person? This wasn't how it was supposed to play out in the novel. Righteous people were supposed to defend the last sanctuary of the martial world to their death, staining the heavens with their blood. Xiang Beifei's refusal had unexpectedly disrupted Invincible East's plans. You should play by the rules at least. Otherwise, I can't bluster as planned in front of my subordinates. It's really embarrassing. Invincible East was a character from the novel within the system space, and this was Lady Chiu's controlled system world. He had to follow the script. Xiang Beifei's response was not anticipated, and he could only rage. Boy, have you made up your mind to oppose me today? Are you crazy? I even stepped aside for you, yet you still oppose me? Xiang Beifei shrugged his shoulders. But explaining things to characters from the novel was pointless. Invincible East's soul-summoning banner swung fiercely, and a towering demonic qi erupted, enveloping the sky with a gray glow like dark curtains, the terrifying aura seeming almost to split the heavens. The aura emanating from Invincible East was extremely terrifying, clearly possessing the strength of the heavenly connection stage. Strange. Isn't this supposed to be a low-level martial arts world? Aren't low-level worlds all about martial artists fighting with punches and kicks? How did it change setting just like that? Xiang Beifei couldn't help but complain. In the world of martial arts, at most emitting some true qi and smashing a stone with a palm would be considered impressive. But this terrifying aura of Invincible East was enough to annihilate mountains within 1,000 miles, let alone a small Water Moon Nunnery. Invincible East possessed the might to destroy heavens and obliterate the earth, descending upon the martial arts world. So was he not playing seriously? Lady Chiu watched Xiang Beifei with a cold smirk. This was her divinely assisted space. She could change it however she liked. Now that Luo Yunxian was preparing to investigate her, how could she just sit idly by? Lady Chiu was fully aware that Xiang Beifei was what Luo Yunxian valued the most amongst his disciples. As long as she captured Xiang Beifei as a hostage, she would be able to threaten Luo Yunxian, negotiate from a position of strength, and even force Luo Yunxian into submission. However, she also knew that Xiang Beifei had many tricks up his sleeve, and Luo Yunxian would certainly have many protective measures placed on his disciple. Lady Cho worried that she would not be able to capture Xiang Beifei easily, so she needed Invincible East first to exhaust the tricks Luo Yunxian left on Xiang Beifei. Then she would take action personally. In her space, fighting with characters from the system and fighting with real people was not the same. Xiang Beifei fighting with characters from the system world meant participating in the plot of the system novel, becoming part of the novel's plot like undertaking system tasks. How he used his tricks was all contained within the novel, unnoticed by anyone from the outside. But if Lady Cho directly attacked Xiang Beifei, and if she did not succeed immediately, given Luo Yunxian's understanding of her, Luo Yunxian would definitely know instantly and quickly make his way over. Luo Yunxian's spiritual power was more than enough to see through the space and shatter it. Boy! Go join those righteous people in death. Invincible East roared, launching an incredibly terrifying palm strike at Xiang Beifei. This palm carried overwhelming might. The surging pressure of the heavenly connection realm locked onto Xiang Beifei, blocking all escape in every direction. There was absolutely nowhere for Xiang Beifei to retreat. Lady Cho also squinted her eyes. She was just waiting for Xiang Beifei to pull out Luo Yunxian's protective measures to counter Invincible East. And then she would capture Xiang Beifei in a lightning-fast move. Xiang Beifei looked up at the terrifying demon palm of Invincible East and raised an eyebrow. Honestly speaking, this palm was indeed formidable, a genuine power of the heavenly connection stage. Although he had reached the orifice transforming stage, it was unrealistic to directly confront a martial artist of the heavenly connection stage and bridge such a vast realm gap. However, he was not panicked at all, not even bothering to lift his eyelids, standing there, not even dodging, as if he had given up on resisting. Die for me! The demon palm of Invincible East suddenly struck Xiang Beifei. Boom! Demonic chi surged wildly, turning the area within 300 miles, centered on where Xiang Beifei stood, into ashes, and the pitiful Water Moon Nunnery was also annihilated, razed to the ground. In order to eliminate Xiang Beifei, Invincible East was no longer following the script of this system world. Of course, I'd say I'll consider it. How could I decide on such a matter by myself? I still need to consult Xiaofei's opinion, Chen Xuqin said with a smile. She didn't agree outright, but she didn't completely reject the idea either, leaving some room for Xiang Beifei to choose. Xiang Beifei pondered for a moment and said, I indeed need to cultivate and don't have time for filming movies or commercials. However, when I have time, I can start a column specifically to teach everyone how to kill desolate beasts, so that people won't panic when they encounter such a situation. He needed to use this identity to guide everyone properly. Lu Hong's eyes brightened, and he nodded. Right. Many civilians living in the inland cities have a shallow concept of desolate beasts, and most of them lack a sense of crisis. Your idea is good. Powerful desolate beasts are commonplace for martial artists, but for civilians, they are still rare encounters. As a martial artist, it is only natural for Xiang Beifei to carry out activities promoting martial arts. Well, that's great. I'll help you promote it. Being a celebrity, one always needs to specialize in a direction. As a martial artist, you must do it in a way that suits martial artists, Elder Luo said. Chen Xuqin, being half an entertainment industry professional, often dealt with celebrities and understood very well how marketing should be done. As Xiang Beifei's #1 mom fan, Chen Xuqin was very willing to help Xiang Beifei, so it was settled, and Xiang Beifei wouldn't need to do much. Once the next semester started and he went on missions to the outer domain's desolate wilderness, he would simply record a few videos. It was a simple matter. But then again, does she really think she can do whatever she wants with my fame like this? Those who tried to profit using Xiang Beifei's fame last time had already been dealt with by him. This time, they intended to make him the scapegoat without consulting him, clearly pushing him into the spotlight on purpose. The reason the Alliance wanted to expose a genius like him was actually very clear. The main reason was, after all, Xiang Beifei was brought up by Elder Luo. Elder Luo and the Alliance were not on good terms, and the people from the Alliance were even wary of Elder Luo, because they couldn't suppress such a non-compliant SR-level awakener and were concerned that Elder Luo might cultivate his own forces at Liangzhou University. And with a genius like Xiang Beifei emerging, it brought them even greater threats. That's why they had to move against Xiang Beifei. A normal person would find it difficult to keep a low profile once exposed, attracting attention wherever they go. By exposing Xiang Beifei in such a manner, they were forcibly putting him in line with the alliance. Being watched by the whole of Juzhou, Xiang Beifei would hardly be able to oppose the alliance in secret, as his every action would be under the alliance's scrutiny. Whatever arrangement the alliance makes later, Xiang Beifei will have to comply. In the eyes of the alliance, Xiang Beifei would become a chess piece to counteract Elder Luo, isolating and monitoring Elder Luo in a special way, reducing Elder Luo's influence. But Mu Yiqing wouldn't seriously think he would comply obediently and act according to her thoughts. Would she? Becoming the standard for N-level awakeners means the initiative is in my hands, Xiang Beifei thought. Xiang Beifei. Is his name the way out of the withered forest? Coincidence? Or? Xiang Beifei felt very unreal. His long-lost father, who had never met him, named him when he was just an infant. How could he be so certain that he would encounter Yu Meng? Did he just casually decide on his son's name just like that? Can you take naming more seriously? This SSR-level system awakener has the ability to set rules. Anyone or anything in her vicinity that follows the rules increases her system value, and she also gains system value by acting in accordance with the established rules. In short, as long as a place has rules, she can become stronger. The rule breakers, in her presence, have nowhere to hide. Xiang Beifei was looking at Mu Yiqing's system log, which listed a large number of rule-related matters she dealt with. One entry read, "You have drafted the Juzhou Plan for SR Talent Selection System proposal, which has been approved by the Alliance Planning Director Zhu Yiji, becoming an official rule. Currently, 2,546 people are following this rule, and your rule value is increased by plus 2,546. The Planning Department of the Juzhou Alliance is responsible for establishing and amending the systems that manage all aspects of the Alliance, shaping the development of Juzhou. To put it simply, as a UR-level individual, Zhu Yiji's job is to define rules." Xiang Beifei only now learned Zhu Yiji's position within the alliance. The rule setter, leading by breaking the rules, has fished his grandson out of prison in a curious way. Thus, it seems that Mu Yiqing is also one of Zhu Yiji's people. It's unclear whether she was involved in the matter of Zhu Xinjue, who should have been sentenced to death, changing his identity and being inconspicuously released from prison. Xiang Beifei soon noticed a system log from September. You amended the regulations for SR Awakeners applying for bail, which currently affects only one individual, increasing your rule value by +1. It seems quite certain, Xiang Beifei muttered as he furrowed his brow. Her system, for any rule she had revised, would roughly increase her rule value by the number of people it constrained. For example, last time she was involved in revising a system regarding the recruitment of students across Juzhou, which directly affected 5 million college entrance examinees, and her system value increased by 5 million. In theory, with such a system, Mu Yiqing should be adhering to various rules. However, Xiang Beifei soon thought again. What are rules? Rules are originally set by people. Since they are set by people, they can naturally be changed by people. The altered rules still remain rules, still conforming to her system's judgment. So, the higher she stands in the alliance, the more easily she can hold all the rules in her own hands, which means that the word-spirit rule system, as supposed adherence to rules becomes powerful, essentially equating to acting as one pleases. Otherwise, how could one say that an SSR-level system is so powerful? Our two schools have been looking out for each other in the withered forest, joining hands to avoid danger, Xiang Beifei said, and then looked at Ren Zhonghai, adding, "On our way here, we even encountered a student from Qingzhou University. Feel free to ask him." Yes, we almost got done in, but it was Xiang Beifei and his team that saved me. Later, we encountered other school teams and warned them about the danger, but they didn't trust us. Only the team from Yongzhou University followed us. Tang he recounted the events in detail, including how they clashed with Yenzhou University, how they encountered Shi Renmei, how they saw the ghost mustache of Remnant Visage, how they were chased, and how the Liangzhou team provided medical assistance. After listening, Ren Zhonghai also furrowed his brows deeply. But with Tang he stepping out, he could only give up. After all, Tang He was a student at Qingzhou University, and Xiang Beifei had both moral and rational. All 11 of you. Xiang Beifei did not continue to inquire, merely gazed thoughtfully at Tang He. Tang He was a normal person. This wouldn't be mistaken because he had a system interface, and the system's functions were rapidly jittering. His Po-Jun-I system was a type of reconnaissance system, and it could also quickly identify the opponent's weaknesses to defeat them through these vulnerabilities. The current system log was showing everything as normal, a detail that did not escape Xiang Beifei's notice. However, what Xiang Beifei found odd was, this guy, for some reason, seemed to have a faint trace of the ghost mustache of remnant visage about him. Was it because he had encountered an attack by ghost mustache of remnant visage that these traces remained? As soon as several people appeared, the atmosphere suddenly felt amiss. Chun Baiwen, Yu Hongba, Zhu Xinjue. It was the team from Yenzhou University. It hadn't been expected that they would appear here. Zhu Xinjue caught sight of Xiang Beifei amidst the crowd and his heart skipped a beat. Then his eyes revealed a resentful expression, but he quickly concealed this hint of resentment. Because currently their alliance with Qingzhou University had broken down, and they had no way to join forces to deal with Xiang Beifei. When Yu Hongba and Chun Baiwen saw Xiang Beifei, they were also slightly taken aback. They couldn't help but exchange glances. Just yesterday, they were thinking of joining hands with Qingzhou University to deal with Xiang Beifei. Instead, they didn't find Xiang Beifei, but Ho Chenggu from Qingzhou University ended up dead. They also hadn't expected to run into Xiang Beifei in this place. Don't panic. He probably doesn't know about yesterday's incident. Chun Baiwen gave Yu Hongba and the others a look, and without verbal communication, they all understood each other. Yu Hongba composed himself and then said, Xiang Beifei, I've long admired your reputation. I am Yu Hongba, captain of the Yenzhou University team. Chun Baiwen also nodded slightly but did not speak. Xiang Beifei looked thoughtfully at the people from Yenzhou University. His gaze swept over them, and after glancing at Zhu Xinjue, he finally said, What brings you here? After we entered this withered forest, we realized something was wrong. Then we ran up this mountain. The situation outside is terrible. Did you guys just run into those strange tree people too? Yu Hongba asked. Indeed, Xiang Beifei said evenly. Are you guys all right? Yu Hongba inquired. Not too bad. Xiang Beifei glanced back at Tang He. Given that Tang He was from Qingzhou University, their team's situation seemed very grim at the moment. When Tang He saw Yu Hongba and the others, he also showed a look of shock. He hadn't expected to encounter anyone from Yenzhou University. After all, Ho Chenggu from their Qingzhou University had died at the hands of Zhu Pengfei, but he didn't dare say much now. As an awakener at the later stages of Qi controlling with an SR-level system, and without any teammates by his side, he was no match for people from Yenzhou University. How long have you been in this withered forest? Xiang Beifei asked. We've been here since last night. Yu Hongbo replied. Since last night? You've been here almost a day. Xiang Beifei was somewhat surprised. Yes, we came here last night. Yu Hongba now had no intention of dealing with Xiang Beifei, and instead appeared to have a faint desire to act alongside Xiang Beifei. Given their team's current desperate situation, this place was truly too strange, and they felt trapped, unable to find their way out. When they saw Xiang Beifei, a glimmer of hope rose in Yu Hongba's heart. Xiang Beifei was strong. Perhaps he had a way. So, you're all safe? Xiang Beifei asked. One of us ran into trouble, Yu Hongba said heavily. Currently, only 4 people remained in their team. Boom! 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 Dust billowed, demonic qi filled the air, and a bloody aura spread throughout the entire sky. The clash between the 2 most powerful masters in the world had riddled the ground with countless holes. Lady Qiu, even though she couldn't control the will of the Resist Heaven Demon Lord, the power of the Resist Heaven Demon Lord was ultimately given by her, and her cultivation level was 1 small realm higher. She knew better than anyone how to deal with the Resist Heaven Demon Lord. After being accidentally blasted away the first time, Lady Qiu had already regained the upper hand. Angrily, she shouted and with a palm strike, disabled the Resist Heaven Demon Lord. Thump, thump, thump. The Resist Heaven Demon Lord was directly bombed to the ground, creating a deep pit upon impact. However, at this moment, Lady Chiu felt no joy in subduing her opponent. She was almost driven mad. What sense of achievement was there in defeating a demon lord who was originally her puppet? She was completely filled with rage, especially when, after flinging the Resist Heaven Demon Lord aside and turning to strike at Xiang Beifei, she found that Xiang Beifei was actually cracking sunflower seeds and watching the show, which infuriated her to the point of explosion. This little rascal. So utterly outrageous. The Resist Heaven Demon Lord was covered in blood, his left arm severed at the shoulder. His body even had several gaping wounds, and he could barely gather his demonic chi. At this time, the soul summoning banner was also broken and fell not far from Xiang Beifei. Master, save me. I can't beat this old witch. The Resist Heaven Demon Lord spat out a mouthful of black blood and pitifully sought help from Xiang Beifei. You did not try your hardest. Xiang Beifei spit out the shell of a sunflower seed and said indifferently. The way he spoke made him seem like a hermit, elusive and unfathomable. But I. The Resist Heaven Demon Lord was startled by a thought. Don't you still have one last move, Chaos of the Demon World, right? Xiang Beifei asked. This ridiculous demon lord's abilities were all written in Lady Chiu's system interface. Chaos of the Demon World, the ultimate skill of the Resist Heaven Demon Lord. Gathering all demonic chi into one, embodying the demon, evil must conquer good. Once performed, his strength would forcibly escalate a level, but the final result was almost certainly death. Only when left with no other choice would he use it, taking his enemies down with him. Without destruction, there is no establishment. Like a butterfly breaking free from a cocoon, only by learning to let go of everything can you achieve the supreme path of the Demon Tao. Your natural talent is excellent, a genius within the Demon Tao, but what you lack is the resolve to break before establishing. If you do not push open that door, you will never be able to attain the Tao. Xiang Beifei's voice once again echoed in the Resist Heaven Demon Lord's ears. His words were like an ancient bell, enlightening the Resist Heaven Demon Lord like a revelation. The words of the Master are so profound. He is guiding me to attain the Tao. Without destruction, there is no establishment. I see. The Resist Heaven Demon Lord felt as if he had an epiphany. Yes. The Master must be teaching me how to attain the Tao. The righteous path is also a Tao, and the Demon Tao is also a Tao. As long as one can attain the Tao, what difference does it make between righteousness and evil? The Master could easily kill this old witch, but he didn't act and chose to crack sunflower seeds instead, indicating he is testing me. The Master must believe that I have the capability to succeed in attaining the Tao, so he wants to guide me, help me break from the cocoon into a butterfly. How could I let down his intentions? Thinking this, the Resist Heaven Demon Lord felt immense gratitude towards Xiang Beifei. He firmly believed, with the Master here, he would definitely break and then establish. Old witch, your Demon Lord is here. Today I shall use you as a stepping stone to attain my Tao. The Resist Heaven Demon Lord roared fiercely, and the once waning demonic chi surged towards the sky. Shadows ominous and blood permeating, thunderously stirring as the entire sky seemed to be engulfed by his demonic chi. Although his soul summoning banner was broken, the remaining pieces of the banner revealed large green skulls, and a black demonic claw emerged from the mouths of the skulls, gathering and causing enormous change between heaven and earth, surrounded by countless tortured souls. Chaos of the Demon World. The aura of the Resist Heaven Demon Lord instantly surged a level, nearly reaching Lady Chiu's realm. Lady Chiu's face drastically changed. Damn! This idiot! As the owner of this system world, how could she not know what the Resist Heaven Demon Lord's final ace was? If it were any other time, no matter how much the Resist Heaven Demon Lord struggled, he would not pose a threat to her, but now Lady Chiu was truly frightened. Chaos of the demon world was a devastating move that meant mutual destruction. Resist heaven. Are you stupid? To actually listen to a brat's words. Lady Cho shouted furiously. Old witch, stop your nonsense. You have offended the master. Quickly meet your demise. The resist heaven demon lord, in order to attain the demon Tao, roared loudly. His body's every corner turned into swirling demonic chi, spreading across the entire sky, and then suddenly enveloped Lady Cho. Boom! 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 The entire system space trembled. The terrifying demonic chi tore the ground apart. Mountains collapsed. Everything in disarray. Black light rampantly sweeping across, completely swallowing Lady Cho. Impressive! Xiang Beifei exclaimed in admiration, and then cracked another sunflower seed. The aftermath of the explosion lasted a full 5 minutes. Peace had finally been restored to the world. The demon lord was gone, having relied on self-destruction to create a terrifying commotion. Self-destruction at the heavenly connection realm is extremely fearsome. If it were to occur in reality, it would obliterate an entire major city. The black chi dissipated, revealing Lady Cho's figure. At this moment, she looked extremely ragged. Her clothes blasted to shreds, and even the sparse remnants of her hair were standing on end from the explosion. There wasn't a single piece of her body unscathed. Her face was so dark that it seemed to drip water. The self-destruction of the demon lord wasn't enough to kill her, but it had caused her a great deal of trouble. The last time she had been this disheveled was when Luo Yunxian captured her and dunked her in the pig cage. She never imagined she'd end up in such a state at the hands of Xiang Beifei. She simply could not forgive these two disciples. What on earth did you do? Lady Cho glared resentfully at Xiang Beifei, who was cracking sunflower seeds. The demon lord had self-destructed, but for Lady Cho, he wasn't completely dead because this was a character in the system space. If Lady Cho wished, she could revive him with just a thought. However, now she would rather die than let this fool appear again, at least not until she figured out how Xiang Beifei could control her system characters. She wouldn't revive this idiot to trouble herself. Why don't you let the demon lord come out again? I think he could do even better, Xiang Beifei said. You're courting death. Lady Cho growled furiously. She was murderously intent and was preparing to personally make a move on Xiang Beifei. But suddenly, a mysterious fluctuation surged around Xiang Beifei, instantly swept over and surrounded Lady Cho. The entire world seemed to have flipped upside down. The gravity around Lady Cho changed bizarrely. She couldn't figure out which way was up or down and almost crashed into the sky. However, Lady Cho was, after all, a powerhouse at the heavenly connection realm and quickly stabilized herself. She then stared intently at Xiang Beifei, surveying the inverted surroundings. Is this the trump card Luo Yunxian gave you? Of course, in my master's Luo clan space, if you want to kill me, just try, Xiang Beifei said calmly. Lady Cho squinted her eyes and quickly searched within this space. This environment was strange and eerie. Since Xiang Beifei mentioned it was a protection provided by Luo Yunxian, Lady Cho didn't dare to act carelessly and didn't make a move immediately. At that moment, a line of text appeared on her system interface. Do you wish to check in at the detected Luo clan space? Note: there are only the host and Xiang Beifei in this space. You can check in to gain a system reward to suppress your opponent. Lady Cho saw the system task prompt on her interface, a trace of playfulness appearing on her somber face. You naive boy, you actually dare to bring a martial artist stronger than you into your space. You're too naive. Lady Cho scoffed, then commanded the system in her mind. Check in. Check in at Luo clan space successful. Check-in reward. You have plundered 2 points of speed from Xiang Beifei. Check-in reward. 9 curves soul subduing bell. Check-in value plus 126. The bell's sound can shake the mind of the opponent, causing them to lose their soul for 10 minutes. Since the check-in location only includes the host and Xiang Beifei, the suppression effect on Xiang Beifei is 100%. The opponent cannot resist. The 9 curves soul subduing bell. Lady Cho's eyes lit up. Since the check-in occurred at a location created by Xiang Beifei, The system reward specifically suppressed Xiang Beifei with a divine artifact. While she was initially cautious of the Luo clan space that Xiang Beifei had, her system obviously had the upper hand, specifically targeting Xiang Beifei and achieving 100% suppression. This meant that here, Luo Yunxian's space couldn't protect Xiang Beifei either. As for the 2 points of speed plundered from Xiang Beifei, she hardly cared. They were insignificant to her. "Let me ring a bell for you." Lady Qiu gave a sinister smile, a golden bell already appearing in her hand. She flicked a finger lightly against the rim of the bell. Ding! The sound of the bell rolled out, the golden sound waves seemingly twisting the space in the air. Wave after wave rolled towards Xiang Beifei, but Xiang Beifei just watched the bell calmly as the rolling sound waves passed right through him. Lady Qiu's expression faltered slightly, her gaze uncertain as she looked at Xiang Beifei. Wasn't he supposed to be utterly disoriented? But it seemed like nothing had affected him at all. What happened to the promised 100% suppression? You actually plundered 2 points of speed from me? Well, don't mind if I do. Xiang Beifei turned to look at Xiaohe on his shoulder, who grinned mischievously. No one could take anything from him without Xiaohe's consent. And while Lady Qiu had merely plundered 2 points of speed, adding those points to herself made the nature of the act very different. Then why did you inquire about matters of spiritual souls? Professor Gua asked again. A powerful aura emanated from him, condensing into a sharp, fierce pressure that silently landed on Ma Cainian. Ma Cainian trembled in his heart when he saw Xiang Beifei, startled by the terrifying presence exuding from Xiang. Xiang Beifei was the man rumored to have killed a one-armed crab in the later stages of Meridian Opening with a single punch. His presence here was no joke. Collecting his wits, Ma Cainian cursed internally. After all, he was an official of the Alliance. No matter how famous this kid was, he was just a civilian, powerless, and without influence. If anyone should be scared, it should be him. Xiang Beifei, quite the big shot, Ma Cainian said with a sneer. Xiang Beifei didn't speak, merely glancing indifferently before walking over to Kong Daming and asking, "I saw the phone message just now. What's wrong with my grandfather?" "I'm not sure. He seemed unwell just now, so I helped him upstairs to rest." "He's up there," Kong Daming replied. "Got it. I'll go up and check on him." Without another word, Xiang Beifei headed for the staircase. However, Ma Cainian, feeling ignored, was quite annoyed. Humph! Not even a basic courtesy. "Roll!" Xiang Beifei simply commanded. "Yes." Ma Cainian's mind went blank, and before he knew it, he lay down and actually rolled out of the room. "What?" Kong Daming and Zhang Xiang watched in shock as Ma Cainian rolled away on the ground, completely stupefied. Ma Cainian actually just rolled away like that? This turn of events was totally unexpected. Why do we need to patrol the archive room? Who would do something as pointless as stealing from the archives? If you ask me, it probably wouldn't matter even if we didn't come here for a year. Zhou Guan leaned back, hands behind his head, following Sun Zhong. He wasn't very interested in this job and kept muttering complaints along the way. Having reached the 3rd floor, Sun Zhong patrolled past a line of rooms. "You have patrolled the N-level talent review department. Patrol value +2. You have patrolled the N-level talent dispatch department. Patrol value +2. After circling the empty room a few times, Sun Zhong pressed a button on the wall to ensure the alarm was working correctly before leaving the room. "You have patrolled the main archive entrance. Patrol value +5. But just then, Zhang Xing thought of something, hastily took out his phone to video call his son, and then asked, "Son, you mentioned you had seen Xiang Beifei before. Take a look. Is this person Xiang Beifei?" During the initial talent competition, students from elite schools, although not present, had watched the live broadcast. Anyone with eyesight could recognize him. Zhang Xing's son, although from Jizhou University, had seen Xiang Beifei. Upon seeing him, he excitedly exclaimed, "It's him! That's him! The genius who trampled the SSR from Qingzhou University under his feet. Dad, you actually met him? Oh my God! That was the legendary genius. You really are that Xiang Beifei. Zhang Xing was also stunned. His son had also told him about the freshman competition before the holiday period, and he was quite amazed by Xiang Beifei. He never imagined he would run into such a great talent so coincidentally today. After a moment, he quickly came to his senses, excitedly stating, "He is Xiang Beifei, no doubt about it. My son is from Jizhou University and has seen him before." Xiang Beifei put the matter aside for the moment and asked, "By the way, Uncle Kong, are there any houses for rent nearby? We're thinking of moving over." "A house? Yes, there is. You should have moved here long ago. The old man always talked about saving money for quests and stuff." "What made you change your mind suddenly?" Kong Daming inquired. "Xiaofei is growing up. A shabby house might prevent him from finding a wife," Xiang Qingde stated solemnly. "Ha ha ha, that's true," Kong Daming nodded. But Lu Hong disagreed. "How could that be? If she truly likes him, she wouldn't care about the house. Still, it's good to live in a nice place. The old house was a bit too dim," Kong Daming remarked. "Leave it to me. I remember a family moved out from my floor, just 2 doors down from my place, diagonally opposite. Moving in would be convenient for looking after each other." "By the way, Uncle Kong, when is your restaurant planning to open?" Xiang Beifei asked. The appearance of a desolate beast like the one-armed crab was still a mystery, and Xiang Beifei suspected someone who had yet to be found. Xiao Sheng, the SR who had disguised himself as an N-level staff member, had disappeared somewhere before the desolate beast appeared that day, and he wanted to see if Xiao Sheng would return to work. "The day after tomorrow. The employees have been asking about it as well. Speaking of which, I should contact them. We've been closed for so long," Kong Daming said. "Then I'll go to the wholesale market tomorrow. Our supply of ingredients has been cut off. I have to renegotiate with them," Xiang Qingde said. Kong Daming hurriedly said, "No need, Uncle Xiang, you should rest. I'll take care of it. We've been idle for so long already. It's good to get moving. I'm familiar with that place anyway, and there's still a lot to do for the reopening. Many customers have made reservations, waiting to support us when we reopen. You'll be busy then. I can go tomorrow." Xiang Qingde waved his hand, insisting. Kong Daming couldn't argue anymore and had to agree. When Xiang Beifei returned home, he made a point of talking to his grandfather in front of the living room camera, clearly explaining his reason for moving out, directly stating that he could make money now and didn't want to live there anymore. An awakener in the Meridian opening phase can easily make enough money to support himself. Those who were surveilling their house would, unless they were fools, know Xiang Beifei's current cultivation realm after making inquiries at the school, so nobody would doubt this excuse. That way, they should start watching his new home. Xiang Beifei was curious to see who would try to install surveillance under his nose. After saying all this, Xiaohe then blocked the camera again. The grandfather and grandson packed up together that evening, and really, they had quite a lot of stuff in their home. "We'll need to call a car. There's no elevator. We can carry it down together when the time comes." Xiang Qingde was contemplating the most convenient way to move. "I can handle the stuff myself. Grandpa doesn't need to worry too much. Just rest on the side," Xiang Beifei said. "How can that be possible? How can you move so much stuff by yourself? Grandpa can still do work. I'll help you carry it." Xiang Qingde was worried that his grandson would wear himself out. After all, moving was a tiring task. Xiang Beifei couldn't help but laugh wryly. "Grandpa, why do I always feel like you've forgotten that I'm a martial artist?" "So what if you're a martial artist?" "A lot of martial artists also hire people when they move," Xiang Qingde said. Xiang Beifei stamped his foot again, and all the packed boxes started to float up, hovering in midair, light as a feather, to lighten the weight of the objects and then use spiritual power to pull them all up. Xiang Qingde looked on in amazement at the feat. "I didn't know you had this ability." Xiang Beifei also realized that he rarely discussed his abilities with his grandfather. He smiled, put everything down, then glanced at the camera on the ceiling and said, "Don't worry. From now on, I'll handle everything. You just need to rest, Grandpa." Xiang Qingde was momentarily stunned and looked at Xiang Beifei in a daze. There was a time when he was always carefully protecting his grandson, safeguarding his self-esteem, telling him to be positive and hopeful, and hoping he wouldn't give up on himself. But ever since the awakening system, his grandson had changed, becoming diligent and cheerful, now an awakener in the meridian opening phase with the ability to protect himself. It took a while for Xiang Qingde to come back to his senses. Then he smiled. The awakening system really is a good thing. Suddenly he felt old, needing protection from his grandson. That was good too, with the grandson being so sensible, it made him happy to watch. Moving wasn't a difficult task. If ordinary N-level awakeners were to move, and they didn't have the corresponding space system, would have to hire a moving company, rent a vehicle, and spend a sum of money. Xiang Beifei didn't need to do that. Just having Xiaohe spit bubbles was enough. Xiaofei is now a big star. We'll all rely on you in the future. Kong Daming joked. Isn't being a star very tiring? I heard you have to shoot all kinds of films every day. Lu Jiwei asked curiously. That won't do. Xiaofei needs to practice cultivation, Lu Hong said seriously. Unconsciously, he had started calling Beifei Xiaofei. In his mind, Xiang Beifei was still a martial artist, and rightly so, cultivation should come first. Chun Xiuqin came in from outside and laughed. Not to hide it from you. These last few days, I don't know how many talent agencies have called me. They all know I'm acquainted with Xiaofei, and they constantly inquire about related commercial activities, offering various large amounts of money, asking if Xiaofei is willing to sign with their companies. So what did you say? Kong Daming asked. Of course, I said we'd consider it. How can I make such decisions? We still need to ask Xiaofei's opinion. Chun Xiuqin smiled. She hadn't agreed to any offers. Neither had she completely refused, still leaving a choice open for Xiang Beifei. Xiang Beifei pondered for a moment, then said, I do need to cultivate. I don't have time for filming or commercials. However, when I have time, I can start a column to teach everyone how to kill desolate beasts, so as not to let people panic in such situations. He needed to use this identity to properly guide everyone. Lu Hong's eyes lit up and he nodded. Right, many civilians, living in inland cities, have too superficial a concept of desolate beasts. Most of them lack a sense of crisis. Your idea is good. For powerful desolate beasts, martial artists might be used to them, but for civilians, they were still a rare encounter. As a martial artist, it was naturally Xiang Beifei's duty to advertise for martial arts. That's great. I'll help promote you. As a celebrity, you always need to specialize in something. You're a martial artist, so you should do it the martial artist's way, Chun Xiuqin said. As someone who worked in the entertainment industry and was familiar with many stars, she knew very well how to market. As Xiang Beifei's #1 mom fan, Chun Xiuqin was more than happy to help him. This matter was thus settled, and Xiang Beifei didn't have to do much. Once the next semester started and he went on missions in the outer domains, just casually filming a few videos would be a simple task. But speaking of which, does she really think she can manipulate my reputation at will like this? The person who last tried to use Xiang Beifei's fame to make money had already been dealt with by him. This time, thinking of using him as a pawn without consulting him was clearly an intentional move to push him into the spotlight. When the brick hit Lady Chiu, golden patterns rapidly spread from the brick and soon began to extend over her body. Lady Chiu couldn't dodge at all, and in no time, she was enveloped in a layer of golden patterns, like a golden woven bag tightly wrapping her from head to toe. What a wicked brick! Lady Chiu was greatly startled. Her speed was already severely restricted, and now she was also bound by the brick. The most bizarre part was that the brick completely ignored the existence of her spiritual power. No amount of spiritual power in her body could fend it off this time. The system has detected the host trapped within Xiang Beifei's golden pattern. Would you like to check in within this pattern? A prompt like this quickly popped up on Lady Chiu's system interface. A conscientious system, checking in at all times. Check in, Lady Chiu said subconsciously. Check-in reward. As you wish, golden bell cover. Check-in value plus 95. This system is really something. Xiang Beifei was quite impressed. Check in wherever you go, and always get something good with each check-in. You can check in 100 times a day, and although some rewards are rather ordinary, most of them are incredibly impressive. With such a system, it was impossible for Lady Qiu not to grow stronger. However, Xiaohe, perched on Xiang Beifei's shoulder, let out a doggy chuckle as it had already grabbed the As You Wish golden bell cover, reward intended for Lady Qiu. As long as Lady Qiu dared to check in where Xiang Beifei was, her check-in system would be directly nullified. Xiang Beifei was the expert at dealing with such ostentatious systems. No good. I must find a way to leave this place. Lady Qiu made a prompt decision and looked at her system interface to find something she could exchange from the system. 5 million check-in points for a 1,000-mile talisman, you're the one. Thereafter, why did it fail? Lady Qiu was horrified, just like He Kaiwei, Zhuiji, and all other system awakeners who had been dealt with by Xiang Beifei. Lady Qiu, after having exchanged a system item, fell into doubt about herself now that she was trapped in the golden pattern. Then she refused to believe it. She kept trying to exchange. She continued to disappear, and thus she entered a vicious cycle. Xiaohe, already sharpening its claws, was doggy laughing, overwhelmed by the deliveries it was collecting. She can get great rewards every day, so why don't I capture her and take her around Jojo for a stroll? Whenever she checks in for something, I'll just take it away. Xiang Beifei stroked his chin, thinking about how to maximize the check-in system. Wherever Xiang Beifei was present, Lady Qiu's check-in rewards would be nullified. Although most of these rewards were no longer of much use to the current Xiang Beifei, the thing was, he could refine these into spiritual power crystals and give them away. There were still many who could make use of these items he didn't need. There were so many in Juzhou who had helped him, and now there was a group of people pursuing unrestrained lives like Su Yang, and especially Chang Ferong, who had awakened the SSR-level evil accumulating system, but whose cultivation was only at the meridian opening stage. If he couldn't cultivate in the normal way, Xiang Beifei could find him a cultivation technique and pile on with spiritual power crystals. Whether it was Xiao Shang or Su Yang and the others, he would need them in the future. Let's go. Begin our check-in journey. Xiang Beifei waved his hand and kidnapped Lady Qiu, who was trapped by the brick. Qiu Junyu confessed all of Lady Qiu's crimes. Elder Luo was originally furious and ready to confront Lady Qiu, but to his surprise, he found he could not find Lady Qiu anywhere. He went to every place in the Alliance but could not find a trace of Lady Qiu. He even asked everyone, but no one had seen Lady Qiu. Could she have caught wind of this and fled in fear? Elder Luo frowned and then snorted coldly. She sure ran away quickly. However, over the next month, he was surprised to discover that the entire Alliance seemed to be undergoing subtle changes. He couldn't specify what was changing, but it felt as if a positive and uplifted spirit was quietly spreading. The Su Alliance searches for beast eggs were becoming increasingly smooth. Everywhere they went, the workers of the Alliance greeted and cooperated with them enthusiastically. They were even overly enthusiastic, especially when Elder Luo personally made an appearance. The workers treated him like a deity, revering him and unconditionally completing any task he assigned. These Alliance workers, who used to only know about fishing and sunning their nets, were as if they had received a new age education. They had repented and finally embraced the mission to protect the civilians. Each of them was actively fulfilling their duties, and those high-ranking SSR leaders had begun to devise a series of evaluations, whereby those who underperformed would be demoted, allowing the capable to rise in rank. Those who were demoted did not dare to complain. Even the newly joined SSR members no longer dared to be arrogant in the Alliance, because they already knew that there was a person named Luo Yunxian in the Alliance, someone you did not want to mess with. The woods of Liangzhou University. As Elder Luo chewed on sunflower seeds, the more he thought about it, the more he felt something was wrong. The transformation of the Alliance in the past 2 months baffled him. He left the Alliance initially because its system was overly decadent and hopeless, so he was always seeking a way to change the fate of the Alliance. He had believed that the road was long and arduous, and feared it would take a great deal of time to traverse, but inexplicably recently the entire mood within the Alliance had shifted, beginning to evolve in the direction he had hoped for. He glanced at Xiang Beifei, who was cracking seeds beside him, his eyes filled with suspicion. "What's wrong? Why do you keep staring at me?" Xiang Beifei asked. "The recent operation to deal with beast eggs has been going smoothly, and every department within the alliance has been cooperating with our Su alliance work," Elder Luo said. "Really? They are no longer opposing you?" Xiang Beifei feigned surprise. "Not only are they not opposing, but they are also very cooperative with our work. With their cooperation, we have dealt with 600 beast egg sites already." Elder Luo continued to stare at Xiang Beifei. "Amazing! The Su alliance works really efficiently. Your leadership is commendable," Xiang Beifei exclaimed. Elder Luo narrowed his eyes and completely ignored Xiang Beifei's flattery. "Lady Qiu has disappeared," Elder Luo continued. "She's done too many bad things. Qiu Junyu has turned her in. Perhaps she feared you would slaughter her and has found a place to hide," Xiang Beifei said. "It's not just Lady Qiu. Even Lu Laosan and Di He from the Council of Elders, that bunch who daydream about banding together to deal with me, have suddenly been abandoned by all. All their subordinates betrayed them and disclosed all of their past crimes and the people they've killed. Now I've thrown them into the Alliance prison," Elder Luo said. The entire Alliance's upper echelons had been swept clean recently. As long as there was evidence, Elder Luo showed no mercy. Those UR-level Heavenly Connection Realm elders simply weren't his match. Abandoned by their followers? That is indeed strange. Xiang Beifei stroked his chin, pondering seriously. He said, "Logically, their subordinates shouldn't be able to betray them. These are all UR-level big shots with well-crafted methods of manipulation. How could they have been betrayed by their subordinates? This matter needs a thorough investigation." Elder Luo kept his eyes on Xiang Beifei, then hesitated once more. "Strange. This brat talks as if he knows nothing. Could it be that my suspicions are wrong, and he is unrelated to this matter? How do you see this situation?" Elder Luo asked. "I find it very odd, but regardless of who is responsible, at least the changes in the alliance are for the better," Xiang Beifei said. Elder Luo continued to scrutinize Xiang Beifei, the suspicion in his eyes growing stronger. Just yesterday, there was a sudden meeting within the alliance to elect a supreme commander for the alliance, someone to lead the entire alliance. Every SSR and UR-level executive participated. Supreme Commander? Yes, the position of Supreme Commander has been vacant for a long time, almost 20 years without mention. For major issues, it has always been the Council of Elders to deliberate, fundamentally not allowing one person to hold too much power, Elder Luo said. The Alliance's high-level powers were intricate and interwoven. The 9 elite universities each sent their own cultivated students into the Alliance. There were many UR-level awakeners in the Alliance, each proud and arrogant with considerable strength. They didn't yield to one another, making it improbable for them to consent to having someone from one specific side leading everyone. So what then? They chose me. Chose you. Not a single person objected, Elder Luo said indifferently. That's what everyone wished for? Xiang Beifei said. Elder Luo spat the shell of the sunflower seed from his mouth, then said, I know all too well the past climate of the Alliance, where the UR system and its hierarchy reign supreme. Whether or not I'm the candidate of unanimous hope, even I, an SR-level individual, have my own sense of it. Maybe everyone has seen your leadership in dealing with those beast eggs lately, recognized your capabilities, and understood that Jojo cannot do without you, which is why they chose you? That's where the issue lies. Do you know who brought up this proposal? Who? Ren Jianghai, Elder Luo said slowly. Ren Jianghai, a professor at Qingzhou University with cultivation at the orifice transforming stage. But the problem is that the students he taught have consistently outperformed those from Liangzhou University, often acting insolently before Elder Luo, making him an individual that Elder Luo finds particularly disagreeable. Suddenly, his attitude towards me became very respectful. He listed all my strengths and formally apologized, expressing his hope that I would take on the role of Supreme Commander. Isn't that a good thing? This is not good. Elder Luo simply stated, everyone in the Alliance has changed, as if an enigmatic force is working behind the scenes, manipulating everyone. all pushing for me to become their highest leader. If I accept, what have I become? A puppet. Xiang Beifei's mouth fell open, not having anticipated Elder Luo's line of thought. Such changes in the alliance are extremely dangerous for Zhou, as they would concentrate all power in my hands. Any command I issue could sway the development of the alliance. Yet I'm unaware of where this manipulating force comes from. All these subtle changes are happening right under my nose, but I can't find the source, indicating that this force surpasses my range of abilities. If I accept the alliance, the next moment that force may come for me, turning to manipulate me. Clearly, it has the ability to change the minds of so many high-level awakeners, achieving what I cannot do, meaning I cannot possibly contend with it. Once I am controlled by that force, the whole of Zhuzhou would be under its control. A gleam of sharp light flashed in Elder Luo's eyes. Therefore, I must first find out what this force is, why it has such immense power. A powerful aura condensed into a sharp qi on Xiang Beifei's body, landing silently on Ma Cainian. When Ma Cainian saw Xiang Beifei, his heart trembled, frightened by the dreadful aura emanating from him. Xiang Beifei was rumored to be capable of killing a meridian opening stage one-armed crab with a single punch, and his appearance here was no mere jest. Ma Cainian steadied his mind and cursed silently. After all, I am an officer of the Alliance. Even if this kid is famous, he's still just a civilian without power or status. He should be the one afraid, not me. Xiang Beifei, such a big shot, Ma Cainian said sarcastically. Xiang Beifei said nothing, gave a dismissive glance, and then walked towards Kong Daming, asking, I just saw the voicemail. How's my grandfather? I don't know. He seemed unwell a moment ago, so I helped him upstairs to rest. He's upstairs now, Kong Daming replied. Understood. I'll go see him. Without another word, Xiang Beifei headed for the stairs. Seeing that he was being ignored, Ma Cainian was quite annoyed. Humph. Even basic courtesy is absent now. Scram. Xiang Beifei said bluntly. Yes. Ma Cainian's mind went blank, and then, almost involuntarily, he lay down and indeed rolled away from the scene. What? Kong Daming and Zhang Xiang were shocked as they watched Ma Cainian rolling away on the ground, completely stunned at the moment. Ma Cainian actually just rolled away like that? This turn of events was completely unexpected. Why patrol the archives, anyway? Who's gonna break into the archives for fun? If you ask me, even if we didn't check for a year, it probably wouldn't matter. Zhou Guan lazily placed his hands behind his head, following behind Sun Zhong. He wasn't very interested in this job, muttering all the way. Sun Zhong walked to the third floor and patrolled along a row of rooms. You patrolled the N-level talent review department. Patrol points +2. You patrolled the N-level talent dispatch department. Patrol points +2. Sun Zhong circled twice in each empty room, and then pressed a button on the wall to ensure the alarm system was functioning before exiting the room. You patrolled the main archive entrance. Patrol points +5. Just then, Zhang Xing had a thought, quickly pulled out his phone to video call his son, and then asked, Son, you said you've seen Xiang Beifei before. Is this person Xiang Beifei? During the initial freshman competition, although students from the elite schools were not physically present, there was live broadcasting available, and anyone with eyes could recognize him. Although Zhang Xing's son attended Jizhou University, he had also seen Xiang Beifei. The moment he saw Xiang Beifei, he excitedly exclaimed, Yes, that's him, the genius who trampled the SSR from Qingzhou University underfoot. Dad, you actually met him? My God, that was the legendary genius. You really are that Xiang Beifei. Zhang Xing was also stunned. His son had mentioned the freshman competition to him before the holiday, and at the time he had been quite impressed with Xiang Beifei. Never did he imagine that he would so coincidentally encounter such a great genius today. After a moment, he quickly collected himself and excitedly said, He is Xiang Beifei, no doubt. My son from Jizhou University has seen him. Xiang Beifei set this matter aside for now, asking, By the way, Uncle Kong, are there any houses for rent nearby? We're thinking of moving over. A house? Yes, there are. You should have moved over here a long time ago. The old man has always talked about saving money for your missions or something. Why the sudden change of mind now? Kong Daming asked. Xiaofei has grown up. The house is too shabby. He won't find a wife, Xiang Qingda said seriously. Ha ha ha, that's true. Kong Daming nodded. But Lu Hong disagreed. How could that be? If you truly like someone, would you really care about the house? Still, it's better to live in a nice place. The old house was a bit too dark, Kong Daming said. Leave this to me. I remember the family that moved out from my floor, just 2 doors away from mine, right across. Moving over would be good too. Easier to look after each other. When are you planning to open Uncle Kong's restaurant? Xiang Beifei then asked. How exactly the one-armed crab desolate beast appeared was still under investigation. Currently, Xiang Beifei suspected someone who had not yet come to light. Xiao Sheng, the man who had disguised as an SR-level clerk. That day, before the desolate beast appeared, he had gone somewhere unknown, and Xiang Beifei wanted to see if Xiao Sheng would return to work. The day after tomorrow. The staff has been asking too. Come to speak of it, I need to get in touch with those staff members. We've been closed for so long, Kong Daming said. Then I'll go to the wholesale market tomorrow since our food supply was cut off. We need to renegotiate with them, Xiang Qingda said. Kong Daming hurriedly said, No need, Uncle Xiang, you rest. I'll handle it. It's been such a long break. I need some activity. I know that place well, and with the reopening, there's a lot of work in the restaurant. Many customers have made reservations waiting for your opening. You'll be busy. I'll go tomorrow, Xiang Qingda insisted, waving his hand. Unable to persuade him, Kong Daming could only agree. When Xiang Beifei returned home, he even specifically chatted with his grandfather in front of the living room camera, explaining why he wanted to move, plainly stating that he was now earning money and didn't want to live there anymore. Martial artists in the Meridian opening phase, earning money to support themselves couldn't be too simple. The people watching his family, as long as they weren't foolish and made inquiries at the school, would definitely also be aware of Xiang Beifei's current cultivation realm. No one would doubt this excuse. Thus, the other party should have found the new house by now. Xiang Beifei wanted to see who would sneak in and install surveillance under his watch. Having said that, Xiaohe then blocked the camera again. The grandfather and grandson packed up everything together that night, and truly, there was quite a lot of stuff in their own home. We need to call a vehicle. There's no elevator. Later we'll carry it down together. Xiang Qingda was pondering how to make moving easier. I can handle the stuff myself. Grandpa doesn't need to worry, just rest on the side, Xiang Beifei said. How can that be? You can't possibly move so much stuff alone. Grandpa can still work. I'll help you carry it. Xiang Qingda was worried his grandson would exhaust himself, as moving was indeed hard labor. Xiang Beifei was both amused and frustrated. Grandpa, why do I always feel like you've forgotten again that I'm a martial artist? So what if you're a martial artist? Many martial artists still need to hire help when they move, right? Xiang Qingda said. Xiang Beifei stomped his foot again, and all the packed boxes floated up, hovering in midair, lighter than a feather. He made the objects lighter and then used his spiritual power to pull them up. Xiang Qingda watched in amazement. I had no idea you had this ability. Xiang Beifei also realized he rarely talked to his grandpa about his abilities. He smiled, put all the items down, then glanced at the ceiling camera and said, Don't worry, from now on, I'll handle everything. Grandpa can just rest. Xiang Qingda was stunned for a moment, staring blankly at Xiang Beifei. There was a time when he carefully protected his grandson, safeguarded his self-esteem, told him to be positive, and hoped he would not give up on himself. But ever since the awakening of the system, his grandson had changed, becoming diligent and cheerful, and now he was a martial artist in the Meridian opening phase, possessing the ability to protect himself. It took a while for Xiang Qingda to come back to his senses. Then he smiled. The awakening system really is a good thing. He suddenly felt old and in need of his grandson's protection. That was fine, too, as his grandson was so sensible it made him happy to watch. Moving wasn't difficult. Normal N-level awakeners, if they don't have the appropriate space-related systems, needed to hire a moving company, rent a vehicle, and spend a sum of money. Xiang Beifei didn't need to. Xiaohei could just spit bubbles. Xiaofei is now a big star. In the future, we'll all rely on you. Kong Daming joked. Is being a star very tiring? I've heard you need to go shoot various films every day. Lu Jiwei said curiously. That won't do. Xiaofei needs to cultivate. Lu Hong said seriously. He had unconsciously changed his address from Beifei to Xiaofei. In his mind, Xiang Beifei was still a martial artist and should primarily focus on cultivation. Chun Xiuqin came in from outside, smiling. You wouldn't believe how many calls I've received from talent agencies these past few days. They know I'm acquainted with Xiaofei and keep asking about related business activities, offering a lot of money to see if Xiaofei would sign with their companies. What did you say? Kong Daming asked. Of course, I said we'd consider it. How could I decide on such a matter? We need to ask Xiaofei's opinion. Chun Xiuqin laughed. She hadn't agreed outright, but she hadn't completely refused either, always keeping a margin for Xiang Beifei to choose. Xiang Beifei pondered for a moment, then said, I really need to cultivate. I don't have time to shoot films or advertisements. However, when I have time, I could set up a column to teach everyone how to kill desolate beasts, so they won't panic when they face such situations. He needed to use this identity to guide everyone properly. Lu Hong's eyes lit up, and he nodded. Right, many civilians who live in inland cities have a very shallow concept of desolate beasts and lack a sense of crisis. Your idea is great. Powerful desolate beasts were commonplace for martial artists, but for civilians, they were rare encounters. Xiang Beifei, as a martial artist, running promotional activities was only natural. Now that's a great idea. I will help you promote it. As a celebrity, you should focus on one thing. You are a martial artist, so you should proceed in that way. Chun Xiuqin was almost part of the entertainment industry. She was in contact with many stars and understood marketing well. As Xiang Beifei's #1 fan, Chun Xiuqin was more than willing to help Xiang Beifei. That was settled. Xiang Beifei didn't need to do anything except, when school resumed next semester and he went on missions to the outer realms, to casually shoot a few videos, a simple task. But then again, does she really think she can leverage my reputation so presumptuously? The last person who tried to use Xiang Beifei's fame to make money had been dealt with by him. This time, again without consulting him, they made the decision on their own to let him lead the way, clearly intending to thrust him into the spotlight. The Alliance's motive for wanting to expose such a genius was obvious. The main reason was that Xiang Beifei was trained by Elder Luo. Elder Luo didn't have a good relationship with the Alliance. The members of the Alliance even dreaded Elder Luo because they couldn't suppress an SR-level awakener who wouldn't follow their commands and feared Elder Luo might build his own power at Liangzhou University. And with the emergence of a genius like Xiang Beifei, the threat to them had greatly increased. Therefore, they wanted to target Xiang Beifei. A normal person, once exposed, would find it hard to keep a low profile, attracting attention wherever he went. By exposing Xiang Beifei, they were forcibly making him align with the Alliance, letting everyone in Juzhou monitor him. This way, Xiang Beifei would hardly be able to oppose the Alliance secretly, his every move under their watch. Later on, however the Alliance planned things, Xiang Beifei would have to comply. In the eyes of the Alliance, Xiang Beifei would become a piece to control Elder Luo in reverse, isolating Elder Luo in a unique way, monitoring him and reducing his influence. But did Mu Yiqing really believe he would obediently follow, acting as she wished? Being the standard for an N-level awakener means that the initiative is in my hands now. Xiang Beifei. Was his name the way out of the withered forest? A coincidence? Or? Xiang Beifei felt very surreal. His father, whom he had not met for a long time, had named him while he was still just a baby. How could he be so sure he would encounter Yu Meng? Did he just casually decide on his son's name? Could you please take naming seriously? This SSR-level system awakener had the ability to set rules. Anyone or anything that adhered to rules within her vicinity would increase her system value, and by acting according to the established rules, she could also increase her system value. In short, as long as there were rules in place, she could grow stronger. Those who did not follow the rules would have nowhere to hide before her. Xiang Beifei reviewed Mu Yiqing's system log, which listed a slew of her dealings with rules, including an entry that read, "You formulated the Zhuzhou plan for SR talent utilization, approved by the Alliance's planning minister Zhu Yiji, released as a rule, currently adhered to by 2546 people. Your rule value plus 2,546. The planning department of the Zhuzhou Alliance was responsible for developing and amending the systems of the Alliance to manage all aspects of it and plan the development of Zhuzhou. Simply put, as a UR level, Zhu Yiji was the rule setter. Xiang Beifei had just learned of Zhu Yiji's position within the Alliance. Someone who sets rules, breaks them by rescuing his own grandson from prison. Truly marvelous. Xiang Beifei could not find any ground for excuse. But he didn't need to make excuses anymore. Elder Luo would not harm him. There was no harm in being known. What is the reason? Elder Luo asked. I am also searching, Xiang Beifei replied. Just like him, I think he might also be searching. Elder Luo slightly nodded, then added, regardless, I still need to thank you. Thank me? I think you could also control my system, couldn't you? Elder Luo asked. Xiang Beifei was silent for a long while. Then he nodded. This old man busied himself with various boring leisure activities every day, often including teasing Xiang Beifei as part of them. If Xiang Beifei wished, he could forcibly reset Elder Luo's system. But you never did. I won't touch anyone who has been kind to me. Xiang Beifei shook his head. He now had the ability to control the entire Zhuzhou, but he simply chose not to do so. It's fortunate that a man like you, whose thoughts have not gone to extremes, has always been able to see himself clearly. If you had gone to extremes, I fear I would have been powerless, Elder Luo said with some emotion. He knew that each time he managed to hit Xiang Beifei's forehead, it was because Xiang Beifei was sparing his feelings and not dodging. Perhaps it's because I have an optimistic grandfather and a righteous and principled master, Xiang Beifei said, propping his chin. Elder Luo was stunned for a moment, then smiled with relief. Whether power is good or bad depends on the person. Role models and the educational environment have great influences on a person. Xiang Beifei dared not say his views were utterly correct, but he at least maintained the most basic principles. So Lady Qiu, she was dealt with by you? There always needs to be someone to take on the role of headsman, and I don't mind taking on that role, Xiang Beifei said. Lady Qiu had already died because she was a heavenly connection realm powerhouse. Xiang Beifei had to keep her confined with a brick tile, but he was about to leave Zhuzhou and could not take her with him, so he decided to resolve the matter. Such a person left alive would bring no benefit to Zhuzhou, only disaster. I really underestimated you, Elder Luo remarked. In order to protect his disciple, he had tempered his temper a lot, worrying that if he went too far, he might provoke the alliance and they might secretly harm Xiang Beifei. However, Xiang Beifei's capabilities had completely exceeded his expectations. He casually dealt with someone like Lady Qiu. Elder Luo continued cracking sunflower seeds, and after a long time, slowly spoke. I will take care of your grandfather, but you have to promise me one thing. What? After finding the answer, come back alive, Elder Luo said calmly. Xiang Beifei smiled knowingly. I will try. He also did not know what exactly was in the outer desolate lands, but the answer was definitely there. Xiang Beifei did not mention his departure to anyone except for Elder Luo. No one knew, not even his grandfather, because he feared worrying him. Xiang Beifei simply said that he was going into a long period of seclusion for cultivation. Standing on the border wall, looking into the vast outer desolate lands, Xiang Beifei's mood was surprisingly peaceful. Although he had been there many times before, this time felt distinctly different. The tall city wall beneath his feet was majestic and resplendent, flickering with powerful formation runes that blocked the desolate beasts of the outer domain from entering. Inside was a world entirely different from the outside. The outside was perilous and filled with the unknown. He needed to understand what exactly Xiang Tianqing and his wife had gone off to do. and why, in that moment, had Xiang Tianxing asked him if he had the awakening system. The answers lay within that vast expanse. Xiang Beifei took a deep breath and leaped off the city wall, heading towards the unrestrained base. He knew where Ziho and Chouhou were located, but the exact location of Yinhou was still unknown to him. However, he felt sure that the direction should be upon Chouhou, which might have the answers to guide him to the next location. Of course, in reality, Xiang Beifei was well aware of how to find Yinhou. From the moment he stood at Ziho, he had a vague understanding of where each location would be. Xiang Beifei. The method to find the locations was written in his name. But he had compared the positional distance between Ziho and Chouhou before, and if Zhuzhou's directions were to be referenced, Chouhou was not north of Ziho but rather to the east. The directions in the outer domain wasteland are extremely inaccurate, easily misleading human sense of direction. In the outer domain, one cannot judge by the normal east-west north-south of Zhuzhou, a fact well understood by all martial artists. Since the Hou were in the outer domain wasteland, Xiang Beifei believed that to determine the direction, one must confirm the method of recognizing Ziho and Chouhou. The reference point for defenses should be the Hou, not Zhuzhou. Otherwise, if he followed what he believed to be north, he might end up being diverted towards the east, west, or south along the way. Upon returning to Ziho, Xiang Beifei did not choose to go to the snowy mountains but rather planned to check the blood altar, feeling intuitively that this altar was special. In the unrestrained base, 20 Su people took turns guarding, and tight protective measures were in place, various formations guarding the area. Some personally set by Elder Luo, and others left by Xiang Beifei, specifically to prevent Ghost Whiskers of Remnant Visage from making a comeback and storming this place again. As soon as Xiang Beifei appeared at the canyon, a voice immediately called out, "Who is it?" 3 figures instantly appeared in the canyon. "It's me," Xiang Beifei said. "Mr. Xiang Beifei, it's you." The 3 Su people relaxed and quickly bowed in greeting. Although Xiang Beifei did not hold an official position in the alliance, being a disciple of Elder Luo, his status was quite high in the eyes of these Su people. "Everything normal?" Xiang Beifei asked. "Nothing unusual." One of the Su people hesitated, then taking a detector said, "For safety reasons, we need to check you." Everyone entering here had to be inspected, to prevent someone occupied by Ghost Whiskers masquerading as a martial artist from sneaking in. It was, after all, not impossible for someone to disguise themselves as Xiang Beifei using system abilities. Okay. The detector, designed and manufactured by Xiang Beifei himself, was researched based on the beast pill of Ghost Whiskers. A simple scan over the heart, and if a beast pill was present, it could be easily detected. After the Su person scanned over Xiang Beifei's heart with the detector and confirmed he was alive, he deactivated the control and said, "Sorry for the disturbance." "Carry on," Xiang Beifei replied. Xiang Beifei walked towards the cave and soon entered the blood altar through it. The blood in the blood altar was slightly flowing. It was supplied with beast blood. It seemed like the Su people had just replenished it. When Xiang Beifei approached the blood altar, the blood in the pool surged out, morphing into hands that reached towards him, but they were promptly flattened upon touching him. He pressed the brick into the slot, instantly mastering the entire formation of the unrestrained, and using the formation, he scanned the snowy mountain area to ensure no abnormalities had occurred before he began to ponder his own matters. How to determine the direction, he mused. Soon, he spontaneously recalled the words of Comrade Xiang Tianxing. His irresponsible father, although he had disappeared without a trace, had at least told him in the Pioneer Stone how to find the directions of the Hou, which was why he had come searching for Ziho. Xiang Beifei pondered for a moment and thoughtfully said, "Maybe it's like this?" He roughly knew what to do now. Xiang Beifei temporarily set aside the matter and inquired, "By the way, Uncle Kong, are there any houses for rent near your place? We're thinking of moving over." "A house? Sure, you should have moved over long ago. The old man always mentioned saving money for you to run errands and such." "Why the sudden change of mind?" Kong Daming asked. "Xiaofei is growing up, and the house is too shabby. He might not be able to find a wife," Xiang Qingde said seriously. "Ha ha ha, that's true," Kong Daming nodded. But Lu Hong disagreed. "That can't be it. If they really like each other, who would mind the house? Still, it's better to live in a nice place. The old house was a bit too dark, said Kong Daming. Leave it to me. I remember there's a family on my floor that moved out, just 2 doors down from mine, diagonally across, and it'll be convenient to look after each other if you move over. Then, when are you planning to reopen the restaurant, Uncle Kong? Xiang Beifei asked again. How such a desolate beast like the one-armed crab had appeared was still unclear. Xiang Beifei suspected someone but hadn't made any progress yet. Xiao Sheng, the phony SR who pretended to be an N-level clerk, had disappeared somewhere before the desolate beast appeared that day, and he wanted to see if Xiao Sheng would return to work. The day after tomorrow. The staff have been asking about it too. Now that you mention it, I need to get in touch with them. It's been a long time since we closed down, Kong Daming said. Then I will go to the wholesale market tomorrow. We've run out of ingredients. I need to negotiate with them again, said Xiang Qingde. Kong Daming hurriedly said, No need for you to go, Uncle Xiang, please rest. I'll handle it. We've been idling for so long. I need to move around a bit. I'm familiar with that place anyway. With the reopening, there's a lot to do in the restaurant. Many customers have made reservations, waiting for us to open so they can support us. You'll be busy? I can go tomorrow, Xiang Qingde said, waving his hand insistently. Kong Daming couldn't argue and had to agree. When Xiang Beifei returned home, he made a point of talking to his grandfather in front of the living room camera, explaining clearly the reason for moving out by directly saying that he could now make money and didn't want to live there anymore. For a martial artist at the Meridian opening stage, earning enough money to support oneself was not difficult at all. Anyone monitoring their home, as long as they weren't foolish and took a trip to inquire at the school, would surely understand Xiang Beifei's current cultivation realm. No one would doubt such an excuse. In this way, they would likely move their surveillance to the new home. Xiang Beifei was curious to see who would try to sneakily install cameras under his watch. After saying this, Xiaohe then shielded the camera again. The grandson and grandfather packed their belongings together that night, and really, there was quite a lot of their own things. We need to call for a truck. There's no elevator, so we'll lift it down together when the time comes. Xiang Qingde was considering how to move in a more convenient way. I can handle the stuff by myself. Grandpa shouldn't worry too much. Just take a rest, Beifei said. How can that be? You can't possibly move all these things by yourself. Grandpa can still work. I'll help you carry them, Xiang Qingde said, worried that his grandson would exhaust himself, as moving was a physically demanding task. Beifei couldn't help but laugh and cry, Grandpa, why do I always feel like you forget that I'm a martial artist? So what if you're a martial artist? Many martial artists still need to hire someone when they move, Xiang Qingde retorted. Beifei stomped his foot again, and all the packed boxes started to float, suspending in midair, lighter than a feather. He lightened the mass of the objects, then used his spiritual power to drag them up. Xiang Qingde watched in amazement. I had no idea you had this ability. Beifei realized he rarely talked to his grandfather about his capabilities. He smiled, lowered the objects, then glanced at the ceiling camera and said, Don't worry. From now on, I'll handle everything. Grandpa can just take it easy. Xiang Qingde was stunned for a moment, staring blankly at Beifei. There was a time when he always cautiously protected his grandson, safeguarding his self-esteem, teaching him the principles of positive living, hoping he wouldn't give up on himself. But ever since the awakening system, his grandson seemed to have changed, becoming diligent and cheerful. Now, as a martial artist at the Meridian opening stage, he had the capacity to protect himself. It took Xiang Qingde a while to come back to his senses before he began to smile. The awakening system really has been a blessing. He suddenly felt the onset of his age and the need to be protected by his grandson. That was also good. Seeing his grandson so sensible made him happy. Moving was not a difficult task. Ordinary N-level awakeners, without the corresponding space-type system, would need to hire a moving company and rent a vehicle, incurring a certain expense. Beifei didn't need that. He simply had Xiaohe blow bubbles to do it. Beifei is like a big star now. We're all going to rely on you in the future, Kong Daming joked. Isn't being a star very tiring? I heard you have to shoot all sorts of films every day, Lu Jiwei said curiously. That won't do. Beifei has to cultivate, Lu Hong said sternly. Unknowingly, he had changed from calling him Little Xiang to Beifei, and in his mind, Xiang Beifei was still a martial artist who should prioritize cultivation. Chun Xiuqin walked in from outside and laughed. I won't hide it from you. These past few days I've received countless calls from talent agencies. They know I'm acquainted with Xiaofei, and they keep asking about potential commercial engagements, offering big money to see if Xiaofei would be willing to sign with their companies. What did you tell them? Kong Daming asked. I told them I'd consider it, of course. How could I decide such a thing? I'd have to ask Xiaofei's opinion, Chun Xiuqin said with a smile. She hadn't committed to anyone, but she hadn't outright refused either, always leaving Xiang Beifei with the option to choose. Xiang Beifei pondered for a moment, then said, I truly need to focus on my cultivation and don't have time for filming movies or commercials. However, when I have time, I can start a column specifically to teach everyone how to kill desolate beasts, so they won't panic when they encounter such situations. He needed to utilize this identity to properly guide everyone. Lu Hong's eyes lit up, and he nodded. Right. Many civilians living in inland cities have a shallow understanding of desolate beasts, and most lack a sense of crisis. Your idea is good. For a martial artist like Xiang Beifei, who was accustomed to facing powerful desolate beasts, it was only natural for him to engage in promotional activities for martial artists. That's great. I'll help you promote it. As a celebrity, one must specialize in a direction, and as a martial artist, you should promote yourself in that way. Chun Xiuqin, who was also half involved in the entertainment industry, knew well how to do marketing from her frequent interactions with stars. Being Xiang Beifei's #1 mom fan, Chun Xiuqin was very willing to help Xiang Beifei, and so it was settled. Xiang Beifei wouldn't need to do much, just casually shoot a few videos while doing missions in the Outer Realms once the next semester began, a simple matter. But on the other hand, does she truly think she can do whatever she wants with my reputation? Those who had wanted to capitalize on Xiang Beifei's fame for profit last time had already been dealt with by him. This time, someone was again planning to use him as a figurehead without consulting him, clearly trying to shove him to the forefront on purpose. The reason the Alliance wanted such a talent as him to be exposed was quite obvious. The main reason was that Xiang Beifei was brought up by Elder Luo. The relationship between Elder Luo and the Alliance wasn't good, with the Alliance even wary of him, as they couldn't suppress such an SR-level awakener who didn't follow the Alliance's orders. They were worried Elder Luo would cultivate his own power at Liangzhou University. The emergence of a genius like Xiang Beifei had brought them a great threat, so they had to make a move against Xiang Beifei. Ordinary people, once exposed, find it hard to keep a low profile, and wherever they go, they draw attention. By exposing Xiang Beifei in this manner, the Alliance was basically forcing him to align with them, putting him under the watchful eyes of all of Juzhou, which nearly eliminated any chance for him to act against the Alliance in secret. His every action would be under the Alliance's surveillance. Later, whatever arrangements the Alliance made, Xiang Beifei would have to comply. In the eyes of the Alliance, Xiang Beifei would become a pawn to restrain Elder Luo, isolating him in a special way, monitoring him and reducing his influence. But did Mu Yiqing truly believe that he would comply obediently and act as she wished? Becoming the benchmark for N-level awakeners means that the initiative is in my hands. Xiang Beifei. His name, is it the way out of the withered forest? Coincidence? Or? Xiang Beifei felt it was very surreal. His long-lost father, who he had never met, had named him at a time when he was just an infant, so how was he so sure that he would encounter Yumeng? Did he just casually decide on his son's name on a whim? Could he take the naming a little more seriously? This SSR-level system awakener had the ability to set rules, and any person or thing around her that followed the rules would increase her system value, and acting according to established rules also increased her system value. In short, as long as there were rules somewhere, she could become stronger. Those who broke the rules would have nowhere to hide in her presence. Xiang Beifei looked at Mu Yiqing's system log, which listed a multitude of her rule-related actions, and one entry read, You have devised the Jojo Plan for SR talent utilization, which after approval by Alliance Planning Minister Zhu Yiji, became an official rule. Currently, there are 2,546 people abiding by this rule, and your rule value has increased by plus 2,546. The planning department of the Jojo Alliance is responsible for formulating and revising the systems to manage all aspects of the alliance and plan the development of Jojo. Simply put, as a UR-level individual, Zhu Yiji's role is to set rules. Now, Xiang Beifei was aware of Zhu Yiji's position in the alliance. The one who sets the rules, leading the way in breaking them, and extracting his own grandson from prison, is indeed magical. Xiang Beifei was already familiar with the method to locate. Just grab a handful of soil from Choho, find a blood altar, and do it again. But the question was there a blood altar on Choho? The plants on Choho were thriving, and various strange insects were buzzing around. Many of these insects posed a threat to humans, and upon seeing Xiang Beifei, they were even eagerly preparing to charge over and bite him. Ow! Ow! The wooden Kirin was shaking its tail next to him, swatting those creatures away with its tail like a fly swatter. Standing atop Choho's peak, Xiang Beifei crouched to grab a handful of mud. The mud was moist and would devour his spiritual power, still the same old story, and the plants could grow in this soil. He flew up high and tried to slap down with a palm strike again. The mountain remained unscathed. Xiang Beifei, now with the strength of the orifice transforming stage, could destroy a mountain over 1,000 meters high with a single palm strike. However, when his palm wind landed on Choho, it was as if he just brushed a gust of wind across the plants. They barely moved, and nothing happened. Why could grandfather shatter this mountain? Xiang Beifei landed back on the mountain, completely puzzled. The video of grandfather shattering the hoe was recorded by Xiao Sheng. Xiang Beifei had watched it several times. Grandfather simply struck with a palm, no fancy tricks, and then the mountain crumbled. But Xiang Beifei, even at the stage of orifice transforming, was completely unable to break it. Wang, Xiao He asked, "Are we going to dig into the mountain? That's a job that requires physical strength," said Xiang Beifei. If there was a blood altar under Ziho, perhaps there might also be one beneath Choho. However, there was at least a passage on the side of Ziho, and it was unknown who had dug it out, whereas he didn't know where the entrance to the blood altar was on this side. Digging into a mountain was indeed a physically demanding task, because spiritual power couldn't be used here. If they wanted to dig out a tunnel, they would have to find another way. Unfortunately, grandfather did not come to smash the mountain today. Otherwise, they could avoid a lot of trouble. Xiang Beifei only knew that the first time he arrived at a hoe, grandfather would shatter the mountain. If he visited the same hoe repeatedly, grandfather wouldn't come to smash it again. Xiang Beifei had already verified this. Over the past 2 months, he had made numerous trips to the snowy mountains and here, but Xiao Sheng hadn't seen any anomalies from grandfather. "Era, it's time to work," Xiang Beifei shouted. Awu. Spiritual power crystal. Ao. The wooden Kirin immediately became full of energy, swinging its tail happily and starting to shovel dirt from the base of the mountain. It made its tail very sharp, and with one scoop it was like an excavator, shoveling out a large pile of dirt. Era also couldn't shatter Choho, but that didn't stop it from exerting effort to dig tunnels. The soil here could be excavated, and without using spiritual power, the soil was no different from ordinary mounds. However, no sooner had they dug out a pile of dirt than it began to stir again, with the soil slowly moving to fill itself back in. This mountain, often shattered by grandfather, had a very strange regenerative ability, and would slowly and automatically restore itself, which Xiang Beifei had to stop. Fortunately, the breath soil Xiang Beifei had been cultivating was becoming more and more abundant. If fully deployed, it was enough to match half a large mountain. The breath soil itself was a special substance, unaffected by the mountain's devouring properties. He used the breath soil to tightly bind the excavated dirt and then condensed the breath soil into a wall of sand, attaching it to the tunnel wall. The solidity of the breath soil bolstered the stability of the tunnel. Strange. Xiang Beifei suddenly thought of the passageway in Ziho. The stone walls of the Ziho passageway were also special, impervious to spiritual power, and it was unknown who had built it. The material of those stones was peculiar too. Had the first person who built that tunnel done it this way? But he didn't continue to ponder. It was better to take care of the matter at hand first, rather than be buried by the soil after digging through to the passage. The three comrades divided the work and cooperated. Era was in charge of shoveling dirt, Xiang Beifei of stabilization, and Xiaohe of cheering them on. They pushed forward toward the base of the mountain, referencing the location of Ziho's tunnel, and Xiang Beifei dug approximately 100 meters from the base of the mountain into the ground. With Era, the diligent, strong, and tireless good child, digging 100 meters without rest was highly efficient. But Era soon stopped because there was a stone wall in front blocking the way, which it desperately tried to dig through but couldn't budge. This should be the cave of the blood altar, Xiang Beifei surmised. After wrapping the tunnel walls with breath soil, Xiang Beifei approached the stone wall and lightly tapped it, then fired a blast of spiritual power. But as soon as the spiritual power touched the stone wall, it was repelled by the stone wall. The stone wall here was made of the same material as in the unrestrained basis passageway, resisting spiritual power. Era, dig around it. See if we can find an entrance, he instructed. Xiang Beifei tossed a spiritual power crystal from the god refining stage to the wooden kirin, and the wooden kirin Aowu vigorously resumed its work, even humming an unpleasant tune with joy. The happiness of a hardworking child is just that simple. The wooden kirin, following Xiang Beifei's instructions, dug around next to the stone wall. After another half an hour, it had finally exposed all the soil on the exterior of the mountain cave's stone wall. The whole cave was spherical. Yet, strangely, Xiang Beifei couldn't find an entrance. Even the ground was flat, without any connection to the outside world. Strange, how do we get in? Xiang Beifei was quite astonished. He began to feel around the stone walls of the giant sphere to see if he could find an entrance. But just then, he felt that something was off and swiftly looked behind him. Darkness lay behind him, the space empty, with only the breath soil sand slowly flowing, firmly holding up the stirring soil above with its own powerful cohesion, preventing the passageway from collapsing under the pressure of the soil. Woof! Xiaohe inquired. Just now, I felt someone watching us from behind, Xiang Beifei whispered. His spiritual power rapidly spread out, searching within the empty sandy walls, but there was no one there. Xiang Beifei even lit up with a glow of spiritual power, but he found nothing. A delusion? Xiang Beifei frowned, not liking to attribute things to delusion, as someone with his level of perception rarely experienced such a thing. Then why? While Xiang Beifei was pondering, suddenly, a loud noise reverberated from all around, rumbling as if a massive earthquake had occurred. Terrifying waves of force kept assaulting the sand wall consolidated by the breath soil. The sandy wall trembled violently, on the verge of caving in from the pressure. What the hell? Xiang Beifei was quite surprised by this development. He hadn't expected such an event because, by his estimates, even the weight of the entire mountain should have been held back. The solidity of the breath soil was guaranteed. Boom! Another boom rang out. The breath soil caved again, and cracks started to appear. The soil that had been blocked by the breath soil began to work its way down through the cracks, alive-like, seeking to rewrap the altar-like stone wall. Xiang Beifei quickly spread the breath soil again, covering up the crack. However, even more violent tremors came from above. It felt like a colossal force smashing down, causing other areas of the breath soil wall to also crack. This immense power made Xiang Beifei increasingly bewildered. Could it be a mountain collapse? The thought popped into Xiang Beifei's mind. But then he paused again. Wait, the mountain has collapsed. This mountain was not one easily shattered by just anyone. At least Xiang Beifei couldn't shatter it. There was only one person who could do this. As Xiang Beifei thought this, preparing to go out and see for himself, he turned around and bumped into a silhouette. He was extremely surprised because he hadn't sensed how this person had arrived behind him. It was as if they had appeared out of nowhere, He even bumped his face directly into them. Swish! Just as Xiang Beifei was planning to retreat, a hand reached out towards his neck at an unbelievably fast speed, grabbing and lifting him up in the blink of an eye. At this point, Xiang Beifei could see the person in front of him clearly. It was indeed his grandfather. However, something was very off about Xiang Qingde right now. His eyes were emitting a strange golden glow, solemn and majestic, as if he were a terrifying deity. Those eyes seemed to have the power to penetrate one's heart, piercing straight into Xiang Beifei's mind. "Grandfather! It's me!" Xiang Beifei shouted, quite alarmed, seeing his grandfather in such a state for the first time. His aura was immensely imposing, his grip extremely tight like unbreakable steel pincers, almost choking Xiang Beifei. Despite that, Xiang Qingde remained unmoved, as if he paid no heed to whatever Xiang Beifei was saying. Still gripping Xiang Beifei's neck tighter, and even directly shackling Xiang Beifei's orifice soul. Woof, woof. Seeing this, Xiaohei quickly pulled out 2 board bricks, clapped them together to emit a humming sound, and while Xiang Qingde was distracted, struck Xiang Qingde's arm with them, hoping to immobilize him with the golden patterns and enable Xiang Beifei to break free. But the golden patterns wrapped around Xiang Qingde did not spread. The previously infallible board bricks failed for the first time. Just as the board bricks had no effect on Xiang Beifei, they were ineffective against Xiang Qingde as well. Xiaohei smacked its forehead in realization. One of the board bricks came from Xiang Qingde, so how could they possibly work against him? But at that moment, there was nothing more it could do except to plant itself on Xiang Qingde's arm, pulling and tugging, attempting to rescue Xiang Beifei. "Grandfather, Xiang Beifei. Xiang Beifei. I am Xiang Beifei." Xiang Beifei once again exclaimed strenuously. It seemed that hearing the name Xiang Beifei caused Xiang Qingde's grip to pause slightly, and the aura around him dispersed a little. Xiang Beifei seized the opportunity to wriggle free from his grandfather's grasp, quickly back-pedaled a couple of steps, rubbing his neck, and frowned as he looked at his grandfather. Xiang Qingde's eyes continued to shine golden, fixating on Xiang Beifei without shifting away, making Xiang Beifei feel extremely uncomfortable under the scrutiny of those eerie eyes. However, this also made He Kaiwei realize something. He still had a chance to prove his innocence. He was embroiled in this affair, but those words were only heard by Zhao Yong from Wu Shishuan's mouth, saying it was his instruction. Zhao Yong, even saying so, couldn't directly prove that the framing had anything to do with him. The only way to clear his name now was to sacrifice the car to save the general. That is to say, Wu Shixian must be kicked out. All he had to do was directly say that Wu Shixian was framing him. A hint of coldness flashed in He Kaiwei's eyes. The entire conference room had already become as tense as drawn swords and arrows at the ready. "Everyone, stop. Don't be too presumptuous." Zhu Yiji finally stood up and shouted sternly, "You 3, how dare you cause trouble in the school? Do you really not take me seriously?" His gaze was like that of an eagle watching the trio of Professor Guo, especially lingering on Xiang Beifei. Even he hadn't noticed how Xiang Beifei had appeared in the classroom, which made him very wary. However, at that moment, Zhu Yiji's aura was as lofty as the sun at high noon. He was still the strongest person here, still able to suppress those few. He quickly glanced at his system interface. Detection. Luo Yunxian has become enraged. Do you want to spend uniqueness value to enhance your defense? 10 million. However, Luo Yunxian had already raised his hand. When He Kaiwei's momentum hit the invisible barrier in front of Professor Guo, it was like slamming into a rigid wall. The wall was imbued with a bizarre spiritual power from all directions, completely dissolving and transforming He Kaiwei's attack before redirecting it back along the same path, striking He Kaiwei in turn. Buzz! He Kaiwei was once again repelled by Professor Guo's returning strike. To put it precisely, he was repelled by his own momentum. How is this possible? He Kaiwei stared intently at Professor Guo. In the past, he only knew that Professor Guo was strong, but since Professor Guo was only at an intermediate stage of orifice transforming, he never took the SR-level Professor Guo seriously. But he had overlooked one thing. Professor Gua only had the strength of an intermediate orifice transformer. He didn't have many offensive means, and his attacking power wasn't great, but he did have the strongest defense in the alliance. This defense allowed him to withstand later-stage martial Taoists with just his intermediate-stage strength. For him, the strongest defense was a counterattack. And He Kaiwei couldn't shake him at all. "What's going on? Tell me the truth," Zhu Yiji shouted. Zhao Yong slapped his forehead and said, Wu Shixian was muttering to himself. He said that both Zhu Yiji and He Kaiwei wanted to deal with Luo Yunxian. He needed to handle Professor Gua, who was beside Luo Yunxian first. So we were tasked to bear false witness to frame Professor Gua. If he does this well, he should be greatly rewarded. Yes. There's also someone named Zhu Yiji, just like He Kaiwei, who directed Wu Shixian to frame Professor Gua. Zhao Yong blurted it all out in one breath. The moment his words came out, the whole conference room fell silent. The more than 20 leaders of Liangzhou University present were all sucking in the cold air, chilled to the core. Zhu Yiji? Zhao Yong was actually saying that Zhu Yiji was also involved in framing Professor Gua. It is well known that Zhu Yiji's frankness without evasion ability is witnessed by all. In this black square, absolutely no one would lie. That means what Zhao Yong is saying right now is 100%. The truth. Zhu Yiji made Zhao Yong say that Zhu Yiji is also a culprit? Mr. E, how is your spiritual defense? Can you block the influence of the UR Awakener system like Elder Luo? Xiang Beifei asked. Many high-level system awakeners can use their own systems to control those of lower level. Yi Chongfeng's strength and talent were only above average in the alliance, but not by much. I can barely manage. Many in the alliance hold grievances against Elder Luo and want to probe his secrets through me. So I've specifically trained my spiritual power with Elder Luo. It might not reach his level, but at least I can protect myself. Yi Chongfeng's spiritual power was very strong. After all, he was Elder Luo's direct disciple. Compared to Xiang Beifei, his talent may not seem like much, but in reality he far surpassed other SRs. With Elder Luo being eyed covetously by many in the alliance, they naturally tried all sorts of methods to attack through Yi Chongfeng. Those powers that coerce the truth, muddle facts, and others alike fall under the type of spiritual manipulation. Thus, his training in spiritual defense was extremely intense, precisely to prevent such occurrences. Once Xiang Beifei confirmed this, he then said, "This whole affair actually involves me." Eventually, he spelled out the entire course of the matter, only leaving out the details about Shaoshang, Grandpa, and that mountain. After listening, Yi Chongfeng was extremely shocked. "This is a major issue. Why are you only mentioning it now? Why didn't you tell us earlier? If you don't tell me, you should at least inform Elder Luo." Yi Chongfeng looked very angry, and there was even a hint of fear in his tone. Although Xiang Beifei spoke lightly of it, Yi Chongfeng could imagine what the situation must have been like at the time. The whole matter. "What does Mr. Yi think Elder Luo would do if I told him?" Xiang Beifei asked. Yi Chongfeng was taken aback for a moment before he finally came to a realization. "I was too hasty." He knew Elder Luo's temperament well. The old man who was protective of his own would not hesitate to confront He Kaiwei. However, the problem was that if He Kaiwei dared to act in such a way, he certainly would have his contingencies in place, and the whole matter would be cleanly attributed to someone else. At that point, it would instead be Elder Luo who appeared to be at fault. Elder Luo was already being marginalized by the alliance. It would be unwise to confront someone without evidence. Yi Chongfeng furrowed his brows as he considered the pros and cons of the whole matter, then said sternly, "Regardless, you must not admit to having killed anyone, understand? I know. Awakeners at the SR level, from the time they enter the meridian opening phase and begin to forge their meridians, to the moment they coalesce their spirit souls and step into the God-refining phase, must spend at least 3 to 5 years and sometimes even longer. SSR Awakeners also need about 2 to 4 years to reach the God-refining phase. UR is the fastest, generally taking about 1 to 2 years without any problem to step into the God-refining phase. The video that couldn't be deleted was all due to its interference. The Alliance had various powerful network technology awakeners. However, faced with the video set by Xiaohe, it turned into a dud. No matter how they used system items, they couldn't eliminate the related video. At this time, a lazy voice came from a corner. Otherwise, how should we talk? The martial arts college speaks with fists. Why not have you two fight it out? Wei Tong turned his head to look and realized that Elder Luo had been sitting there for who knows how long. His face quickly changed expression. Fight? What a joke! Although he was an SSR, he couldn't withstand a single punch from Yi Changfeng. And Shiyu, on the side, realized something and spoke up. Have you reached the late stage of meridian opening? Professor Guo also reacted, looking at Xiang Beifei in astonishment. He knew that Xiang Beifei had great talent, but normally he should have, at most, the strength of the mid-stage of meridian opening. How could he have suddenly reached this level? Xiang Beifei contemplated for a moment, then shook his head. Not yet. So then, what is your cultivation level? Professor Guo asked cautiously. Mid-stage of meridian opening, Xiang Beifei replied. It wasn't that he didn't trust Professor Guo. Truth be told, he was worried about Shiyu. Last semester, Shiyu followed his suggestion and chose to develop in the direction of the Alliance, and now she was interning within the Alliance. The Alliance had been keeping an eye on him and searching for his information, so they would certainly spare no effort to find a breakthrough from the people around him, and Shiyu was clearly one of them. Of course, within Shiyu's character, Xiang Beifei believed she would not actively betray him, but after all, she was just an SR at the late stage of meridian opening. Just any SSR like Mu Yiqing in the late stage of God refining could easily and silently extract information from Shiyu, even if Liangzhou University had many confidentiality measures for its students. Liangzhou University was no longer purely its own. For example, the literary Taoist managing the martial arts college was someone sent by the Alliance, all watching Xiang Beifei. His own strength had improved fast enough. With the awakening system, within half a year, he was already at the early stage of meridian opening, and in less than a year he had reached the late stage, far surpassing ordinary SSRs. This terrifying speed of cultivation was even beyond what UR awakeners could achieve. If those people knew his cultivation was improving so quickly, they would probably come after him recklessly. Therefore, Xiang Beifei had to keep it a secret until he broke through to the God-refining phase. Only then would he truly have the ability to protect himself and not fear people like He Kaiwei. Moreover, he could also catch the Alliance's lofty SSRs and URs off guard, teaching them a lesson. He had already spread the news, and during a recent period, he even deliberately displayed his mid-stage meridian opening strength in front of many students, thus putting He Kaiwei at ease. Now, He Kaiwei would definitely believe that it was Elder Luo who had killed those 3 individuals at the time, so he wouldn't dare act rashly. He Kaiwei and the others would focus their attention on Elder Luo, which would divert their attention from Xiang Beifei, whose cultivation was only at the mid-stage of meridian opening. That way, Xiang Beifei could quietly grow stronger. Once he had sufficient cultivation level, he could then break out and fight as a group. So that's how it is. Professor Guo could accept strength of this level, but he was apparently somewhat listless. He really had hoped that Xiang Beifei was in the late stage of meridian opening. Then why did you inquire about the soul? Professor Guo asked again. A strong aura condensed into a sharp qi, quietly landing on Ma Kainian's body. When Ma Kainian saw Xiang Beifei, he shivered inwardly, terrified by the formidable aura of Xiang Beifei. Xiang Beifei was rumored to be capable of killing a late-stage meridian opening one-armed crab with a single punch. His presence here was not for jokes. Ma Kainian steadied himself and cursed inwardly. After all, he was an official of the Alliance. No matter how famous this kid was, he was just a civilian without power or influence. If anyone should be afraid, it should be him. Xiang Beifei, quite the big shot, Ma Kainian said with sarcasm in his voice. Xiang Beifei did not reply, simply giving him an indifferent glance. Xiang Beifei stood in a forest, with grotesque rocks on the ground and lush trees growing all around. These trees were tremendously tall, reaching hundreds of meters high, making it impossible to see their tops when he looked up. He did not know where he was, but it definitely was not Choho because logically, Choho should have been shattered and not recovered this quickly. It would not have grown here so soon. The surroundings were a dripping green with plants intermingling wildly, growing very vigorously. Only the patch of grass where Xiang Beifei stood at the entrance of the cave looked withered, with yellowed, gray leaves drooping to the ground, seemingly affected by the altar of blood inside the cave. The cave entrance extended from underground, with a steep incline. Xiang Beifei hadn't noticed it when he ran out, but now he saw that water was flowing along the ground toward the entrance, seemingly heading for that altar of blood. At the moment, the cave entrance was covered by withered vines. Xiang Beifei parted these withered vines and stepped onto another rock at the entrance. There was no path ahead, probably because the area was seldom visited, and the weeds here grew as tall as his waist, very unruly. So, what could be swallowing spiritual power here? Xiang Beifei pondered. He still did not know which Ho this place was, but it was likely In Ho. If his grandfather had told him to go down, he should also understand what the method of proceeding was. So, he needed to search this mountain for something that could swallow spiritual power. Xiang Beifei leaped towards the waist-high weeds. Flying around here was pointless. He had to search thoroughly. However, just as he landed on the grass, the lush weeds suddenly withered as if they had met the god of plague, deteriorating rapidly. In the blink of an eye, the weeds within 2 meters of where Xiang Beifei stood had all died. Xiang Beifei was stunned too. The situation was very unusual since the surrounding trees were growing very lushly. Only the spot he was standing on had withered, creating a stark contrast. He immediately stood up and leaped onto the big tree in front of him, landing on a branch 2 meters high. The birch tree had been very lush, but when Xiang Beifei stepped on it, the sturdy trunk suddenly shriveled, turning dry, and even the branches drooped, with the leaves curling up. Xiang Beifei looked back at where he had been standing and was surprised to find the previously dead grass was slowly regaining life. The patch of grass became lush again, as if nothing had happened. Awu awu. Era scratched Xiang Beifei's ears with its tail in bewilderment. How could I possibly be a human herbicide? What are you even thinking? Xiang Beifei squatted on the branch, pondering the situation, but he hadn't stood long when there was a crack sound. The branch under his foot broke, over-dried, turning into rotten wood. He paused, hovering in midair, but the branch had already fallen to the ground, shattering into fragments as if it had been corroding for hundreds of years. Woof woof! Xiaohe was quite smart, recognizing the place at once. That's right, Xiang Beifei frowned. This isn't In Ho, it's Mao Ho. He realized then that when he had come out of the cave, the withering of the surrounding plants was not due to the cave but because of him. The scenery in Mao Ho was very strange. In the withered forest at the foot of the mountain, trees would rejuvenate as people passed by, becoming vibrant with life, and would wither again once people left. But it was just the opposite for the trees above Mao Ho. Vibrant trees would wither as people passed by and rejuvenate when they left, completely the opposite of the withered forest below. To verify this, Xiang Beifei immediately flew upwards. It took him 100 meters before he left the forest and reached midair, where the fog was dense, but looking down he could see a mountain peak. It indeed was Mao Ho. The mountain of Mao Ho was very high, probably several thousand meters, with a summit spread like a volcanic crater. During their last visit, they had also tried to climb to the summit here. The stream water flowed from the foot of the mountain upwards, continuously pouring into the crater. When Xiang Beifei had come here before, he had not seen what was inside the volcanic crater because they had encountered terrifying forces as soon as they reached the summit, which had blown them away, leaving no chance to get closer. Now he realized that the top of Mao Ho Mountain was the teleportation entrance of the altar of blood, and those streams seemed to flow from the foot of the mountain up to the crater before flowing into the altar. The trees hundreds of meters tall that he had just seen were all growing in the volcanic crater. Awu! Era also recognized the place. Last time in the crater, a segment of blackwood had provoked it, and it was Era, that naive one, who had suddenly slapped it out from the spirit-gathering book, dragging that force out from the summit and extinguishing it. The power here had now vanished, with no sense of oppression, almost unrecognizable to it. In fact, even if that power was still present, it would not matter to Xiang Beifei. During his last visit here, he was only at the meridian opening stage, and the Blackwood had the power of God refining. Now, he was at the orifice transforming stage, able to extinguish the Blackwood with just a breath. But this information was not particularly good news to Xiang Beifei. "Grandpa sent me to Mao Ho?" Xiang Beifei was very surprised. Although he did not know how his grandfather managed it, it was clear that jumping straight from Cho Ho to Mao Ho without going through Yin Ho wasn't good news. Because Xiang Tianxing had said that to continue the journey, one must visit each Ho in order, obtain some things from the Ho, and then one could proceed smoothly. Zi Chou Yin Mao Chen, Si Wu Wei Xin Yu Su Hai. Xiang Beifei had obtained the chilly air from Zi Ho, the soil from Cho Ho, and next should have been Yin Ho. However, he had never seen what Yin Ho looked like, and even didn't know what was on it. His grandfather had skipped Yin Ho and sent him directly to Mao Ho. Although this saved quite some trouble, as Comrade Xiang Tianxing said, would there be difficulties in continuing without something from Yin Ho? Do I need to go back and look for Yin Ho? Xiang Beifei looked around and discovered a clump of soil near him. This clump of soil, no bigger than a thumb, was slowly rotating. Xiang Beifei poked the soil with his finger, and it quickly turned into a small cone. The sharp end of the cone rotated twice and then pointed in one direction. Xiang Beifei wasn't sure what this direction was, but clearly, the soil was left by his grandfather, meaning it came from Cho Ho. Following this soil's direction could lead him to Yin Ho. Xiang Beifei thought about going to find Yin Ho. He just needed to follow the direction indicated by this clump of soil. But soon he became thoughtful again, feeling that things might not be so simple. Normally speaking, if one were to search for a Ho, Grandpa would surely know more about these house than Comrade Xiang Tianxing. After all, Comrade Xiang Tianxing had no understanding of Grandpa's matters. Xiang Tianxing didn't even know why his own father had amnesia. He just noticed his father's odd behavior and then went to look for some answers. From the current situation, Grandpa possessed more accurate information than Comrade Xiang Tianxing, since Grandpa could control the house and even directly transported Xiang Beifei here. This fact alone demonstrated that Grandpa was more formidable than Comrade Xiang Tianxing. Since Grandpa directly brought me to Mao Ho, there must be a reason for it. Xiang Beifei stroked his chin, contemplating the current situation. If Grandpa really agreed with Xiang Beifei continuing the search for answers, logically he would have transported Xiang Beifei directly to Chen Ho, Si Ho, or even further house to save him a lot of trouble. But he didn't do that, he just sent him to Mao Ho and left. Mao Ho, precisely the place Xiang Beifei had visited before, and he also carried water from Mao Ho on him. Was it because Xiang Beifei hadn't obtained the token from Chen Ho, so he couldn't be transported to Chen Ho? Xiaohei, bring out the stream water you saved last time for me to see, Xiang Beifei said. Xiaohei immediately wagged his tail, spat out several bubbles, and pushed a cluster of bubbles towards Xiang Beifei. Upon closer inspection, Xiang Beifei found that the water inside the bubbles had already gathered together, forming a small whirlpool. He poked the cluster of water, and it started turning, forming a shape resembling a small tadpole and pointing in one direction. The direction it pointed was different from Cho Ho's soil cone and Zi Ho's air spiral. Zi Ho's air spiral's tail tip pointed towards Cho Ho. Cho Ho's soil cone pointed towards Yin Ho. Clearly, this water served as the compass for Mao Ho and thus should point towards the next Chen Ho. Grandpa has arranged the compasses for Mao Ho and Cho Ho for me, but he didn't tell me to look for Yin Ho, which doesn't quite add up. Xiang Beifei analyzed Grandpa's handling logic. He knew the house so well, he surely wouldn't have let Xiang Beifei miss the token from Yin Ho. If it said that one needs to get one specific item from each Ho, could it be because he discovered that not only do I have the stream water from Mao Ho on me, but I have also obtained and transformed something from Yin Ho without realizing it? Xiang Beifei speculated inwardly. But where would I have gotten something from Yin Ho? Xiang Beifei carefully examined every item on him. He indeed had many system items, but these were from other people and had no connection to Yin Ho. And since Xiang Beifei had never been to Yin Ho, when had he obtained something from there? Xiang Beifei checked all his belongings again, but still found nothing related to Yin Ho. Could his speculation be wrong? Xiang Beifei was puzzled. At this moment, Xiaohei suddenly barked twice, sensing something wrong at the foot of the mountain. The situation is not as simple, Elder Luo said. In the individual competition, there are only 8 rounds, with one round equaling 1 point. Therefore, total points are very significant. But have you ever considered that other schools, to get a higher total score, will definitely devise a way to secure that 1 point? And that this 1 point is almost a guaranteed win against whom? Long Guocheng and the others understood. Against our Liangzhou University? Now, all the other 8 universities have a common understanding that Liangzhou University does not have any SSR students this year, meaning no students in the Meridian opening phase. Therefore, to secure that guaranteed point, they will definitely send an SSR in the Meridian opening phase against Liangzhou University. Because if an SSR is sent against other schools, sometimes they will encounter an opponent who is also an SSR, and both in the Meridian opening phase, inevitably one will lose. If it happens to be their own side that loses, then it's not worth it. But now that other schools believe that all Liangzhou University students are only in the late stages of Qi controlling, sending an SSR in the Meridian opening phase to face only Qi controlling phase students from Liangzhou University is almost certain to be a victory. Everyone wants to pick the soft persimmons first and get that 1 point. Exactly. Which means that our opponent in each match could potentially be an SSR in the Meridian opening phase. Elder Luo said meaningfully. The expressions on everyone's faces turned solemn. Elder Luo said, "All right, as for how to allocate players for the upcoming matches and how to break through this situation, you 5 need to discuss it on your own. Really, why do they have to make a simple competition for freshmen so complicated?" Ma Ziqian grumbled to the side. To them, martial artists, the most straightforward method would be to rush in and have a tough fight, which would be the easiest. Because that's also a tactic. Elder Luo said, facing opponents with an unbalanced strength, how to arrange your players to break the deadlock and secure more victories is a type of commanding strategy. The competitions in elite universities are not only about martial strength but also about the ability to adapt to various situations on the fly, how to optimize limited personnel most effectively. It tests both the team leaders and the newcomers. Cultivating this mindset can also be applied when facing beast tides in the future. The martial arts colleges of elite universities are all about cultivating pioneers and defenders. That is to say, their fundamental thinking revolves around combat. In the face of beast tides, desolate beasts vary in strength, which is why schools train their students on how to maximize combat effectiveness with efficient manpower. This freshman competition may seem unfair, with Meridian opening phase students going up against Qi-controlling phase students, which could make the battles seem one-sided, not truly reflecting the freshmen's actual strength. But the truth is, there's never been any fairness when facing desolate beasts. In battles against desolate beasts, their strength is often greater. So how to win and gain the most points is actually a test of the tactical coordination abilities of the universities. Which battle to give up on, which to go all out in, whom to send against different opponents, learning to choose and refuse, playing psychological games with one another. It's not just about bravery, but also about wit. Although Elder Luo usually appears to have nothing to do and acts unreliably, he has served as the commander-in-chief in confronting the beast tides for the Jiuzhou Alliance, and his strategic outlook is formidable. He is very clear about the original intention behind these elite universities competitions. That is to say, Elder Luo has an idea of how to break through this situation, but he didn't state it explicitly. Instead, he wanted Xiang Beifei and his team to think for themselves first. This is also a form of training. If their ideas don't work, then Elder Luo will provide guidance. Having heard what Elder Luo said, no one else could complain. Yi Changfeng and Yu Qixin also sat to the side without speaking further, watching the 5 members led by Xiang Beifei. Xiang Beifei and the others fell into silence. After a long pause, Long Guocheng was the first to speak. For tomorrow's competition, our first match is in the 2nd round, against Qingzhou University. Facing Qingzhou University, we don't know who they will send to face us. Xiang Beifei said, the person Qingzhou University sends tomorrow will definitely be this Ho Chengguo, without any surprises. Long Guocheng asked, are you so certain? Qingzhou University has 2 SSRs, a UR, and 2 SRs, and they haven't decided on the candidates yet. Xiang Beifei said, "It will definitely be Ho Qingguo." He initially rejected Liangzhou University and opted for Qingzhou University instead. He must prove to others that not choosing Liangzhou University was the right decision, and his way of proving it is to come and defeat us personally. That does make sense. Li Zimu nodded thoughtfully. Considering how you refuted him today and injured his pride, he would surely seek revenge. Xiang Beifei, do you have the ability to defeat Ho Qingguo? Shi Qiao asked. Xiang Beifei fell silent for a moment, then slightly nodded. Long Guoqing and the others looked slightly better, now that they all recognized Xiang Beifei and were aware of his formidable abilities. Although he was not an SSR, his strength was incredibly powerful. With him there, even if Liangzhou University couldn't compete with those 3 universities known for their overt strength, they could still stand shoulder to shoulder with the other schools. But if the other schools all send SSRs to deal with us, we are almost certain to be defeated. Xiang Beifei can only play twice, which means at most he can earn us 2 points. But the 4 of us will almost certainly lose, Ma Ziqin said. Unless we figure out a way to prevent them from all using SSRs against us, Li Zimu said. Now they all think we're easy pickings, so how can we make them change their minds? Long Guoqing asked. It's simple. We must let them know that we are not that weak, Xiang Beifei said. Li Zimu caught on and said, I get it. We have to show that our school also has a Meridian Opening Phase student so they won't all send Meridian Opening opponents against us. That means tomorrow, against Qingzhou University, Xiang Beifei, you must participate. Since one person can only play twice at most after Xiang Beifei's first move, as long as he shows a little of his strength, that should be enough to deter the people from the other schools and make them wary. Understanding that the persimmon of Liangzhou University might not be so easy to squish, because if they send an SSR who ends up facing the tough opponent that is Xiang Beifei and loses, it would be a significant loss for them, and thus other schools will not rashly send SSRs after Liangzhou University. This ability was very peculiar. It could target anyone committing a sin, whether beast or human, and would then automatically form a target gate in the mind. Even if this target gate was not originally the opponent's weakness. Just like with desolate beasts such as the triangular thunderkite, whose weakness was originally its eyes, but if Yuqishin used the 7 deadly sins kill, he could forcibly shift this weakness to another place, like moving the target gate to the tail of the triangular thunderkite. Then, if Yuqishin struck the tail of the triangular thunderkite, the beast was doomed to die. This ability is really powerful. Forcibly changing an opponent's weakness? Xiang Beifei said, quite impressed. Right, I heard that originally 2 SSR Awakeners were going to come to Liangzhou University, but when Liangzhou University admitted an N level, those 2 SSRs looked down on Liangzhou University and went to other elite schools, someone said. Wouldn't that drive the school crazy? Losing 2 SSRs because of 1 N-level student. Exactly. That N-level Awakener really is a troublemaker, they noted. Just then, Xiang Beifei exclaimed in surprise, as he noticed a figure suddenly appeared behind the infant. The figure seemed to have teleported there, holding a sword with an imposing aura, ignoring the tentacles. It was Yi Changfeng. Yi Changfeng frowned at the baby, then sliced at the baby with his sword. The baby seemed to react, but before it could turn around, Yi Changfeng's sword had already cleaved it in 2. However, the baby did not dissipate. After being split, countless tentacles sprouted from its body and merged into the surrounding tentacles. You're courting death. Yi Changfeng gripped his long sword and swung it forward once more. This time his swing was like a bolt of lightning, carrying the terrifying force of 1,000 June, and the fierce sword chi cut through the air for hundreds of meters, actually splitting through the mass of tentacles, creating a rift. The tentacles that were cut apart tried to regroup, but countless sword chi bursts exploded among them. Boom! 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 All the tentacles failed to escape under Yi Changfeng's sword and were utterly annihilated. The remaining tentacles, terrified, began retreating towards the ground and quickly disappeared from sight. You all wait here. Don't run around. Yi Changfeng flung his sword upwards, and the Long Yuan sword hovered above their heads as if protecting them. while he himself wielded another sword. With a single step, he flickered through space and vanished into thin air. Thank goodness Mr. Yi arrived. Fan Kai breathed a sigh of relief. If Mr. Yi hadn't arrived in time, they feared this journey would have been their last. But Sun Yushan didn't quite understand, saying, "What kind of desolate beast is this anyway? How come we've never seen it before?" The two of them had trained in this cultivated domain for 3 years and were roughly aware of the types of desolate beasts there. Some beasts were powerful, but never had they been as troublesome as this time, nearly losing their lives today. Xiang Beifei pondered for a moment, then turned to Xiaohe and asked, "Xiaohe, you should be able to take him out of this space, right?" Xiaohe nodded. This space was created by the system, and Xiaohe could not be confined by any ability of the system. If it wished, it could simply leave the system's constraints. Then take him out of this space first, and let him stay in the woods, Xiang Beifei said. This isolated island might harbor unknown dangers, but it would suffice to have Lu Gui restored to. Among these 3 people, the third ghost mustache of remnant visage was a one-eyed man. His left eye was replaced by a large hole, and one could vaguely see his brain through the left eye socket, but the rest of him appeared quite normal. "There was some disturbance at the blood altar just now," Broken Arm said, gazing towards the summit. But Broken Throat's words were always very simple because if he spoke too much, blood would start flowing from his throat. "I also find it odd. It's as if the blood altar suddenly became activated," the one-eyed man said. "You, me?" Broken Throat said simply. "Yes." Though Broken Throat's words were simple, the one-eyed man and Broken Arm understood him perfectly, and they quickly leaped up, flying towards the summit, presumably to the blood altar in Marquis Domain to check the situation. Broken Throat, however, remained in place, his gaze sweeping into the distance. His powerful orifice perception manifested, searching the entire withered forest. 3 in the orifice transforming phase. Xiang Beifei frowned slightly. Dealing with these 3 wasn't too difficult for him in his current state. He probably had a 70% chance of winning even if he took on all 3 of them. But he didn't rashly reveal himself, because this place was no longer as simple as the 3rd dangerous area, Tranquil Domain. In last year's Newcomers Contest, Ghost Mustache of Remnant Visage lured the participants of the team trials taking place in the 2nd dangerous area, Marquis Domain, to the withered forest using blood altar projections. When Union members arrived, they were in the 3rd-ranked dangerous area, Tranquil Domain, but the withered forest had vanished. From Xiang Tianxing's pioneering stone, one could infer that the withered forest was actually from the 4th-ranked dangerous area, Marquis Domain. That is to say, this place had now become a very strange area, no longer under the control of Zhuzhou humans, but rather the territory of desolate beasts. Now 3 ghostly visages appeared here again, one of them being the familiar Broken Throat. It was clear they had been monitoring the withered forest all along. Most importantly, he had just perceived a sense of orifice perception that was even more powerful than these 3. A source he did not know, which made him quite wary. Broken Throat, standing on the cliff, was deep in thought. Suddenly, numerous black tendrils erupted from his body. These tendrils spread quickly, extending into every corner of the withered forest. The black tendrils swept over every broken branch, stone, and root like a tide of insects, seemingly intending to search the area thoroughly once more. Soon, the tendrils were approaching the location where Xiang Beifei was hiding. He furrowed his brow slightly. A direct departure was impossible since the space here had been sealed off as soon as the 3 ghostly visages appeared. Mere invisibility was useless when his physical body could easily be touched by the tendrils. He signaled to Era, who immediately clawed at his hoof, causing the nearby tree to split open and envelop them, then sealed back up. The black tendrils quickly passed over the bark of the withered tree where they were hiding, like a tide, but failed to find them inside. The rustling sound from outside, similar to a swarm of locusts passing by, was quite uncomfortable. Woof! Xiaohe was ready to rush out with a brick to give the offender a beating, but Xiang Beifei shook his head slightly. It wouldn't be wise to do so. Although enclosed within tree bark, Xiang Beifei's spiritual power perception was still intact. He could clearly sense the entire withered forest being covered by Broken Throat's tendrils, which surprised him. Although the withered forest was not that large, it was at least 10,000 times larger than the city of the old days, Jingsu, where he had been last time. Broken Throat was alone, yet the tendrils he spread out could cover so wide an area. Xiang Beifei found that he had underestimated his opponent. Broken Throat and those like Lin Long from Ghostly Visage were different. Lin Long and others, to blend into Juzhou, had fused their hearts with beast pills and were greatly restricted. But Broken Throat's parasitic method was boundless, and the means at his disposal were certainly more abundant than Lin Long's. Such a species with wisdom was not to be underestimated. The black tendrils had almost searched through all the withered trees. Broken Throat found no anomalies, but he obviously wasn't giving up and began to gather all the branches. Crack! Crack! The branches were being compressed by the tentacles of Broken Throat, shattered once more as if to ensure that not a single creature in the entire withered forest escaped its destruction, even though the trees had already been wrecked. Those tentacles also coiled around the tree trunk where Xiang Beifei had been hiding, beginning to squeeze it. This time, even Era was out of options because if it tried to control the trees to make them harder, the anomaly would surely be detected, and it would be better to just burst out and fight them head-on. Xiang Beifei had no intention of fighting here. A faint white glow immediately lit up on his body. The power of Stand Aside was already affecting him and Era. Stand Aside could forcibly prevent a third party from participating in the battle between Xiang Beifei and another target. And Xiang Beifei's opponent was naturally set to be Era, thus treating Broken Throat as the third party. Being affected by Stand Aside, Broken Throat was unable to touch Xiang Beifei and Era. The black tentacles passed through Xiang Beifei's body without catching him. Crack! The section of the withered tree that he had been dodging was once again ground to dust by the black tentacles. Luckily, this guy is not too powerful. Unable to break through Stand Aside, Xiang Beifei let out a sigh of relief. Last time, when he was in the God Refining stage, he had faced 2 ghost whiskers of Remnant Visage in the Orifice Transforming stage alone, using Stand Aside. However, Stand Aside was easily neutralized by the opponents, but now that he was in the Orifice Transforming stage, Broken Throat could not detect him at all. After another rampage of the black tentacles through the withered forest without discovering anything suspicious, it took a long while before Broken Throat retracted all of the black tentacles. At this moment, the 2 men, Severed Hand and One-Eyed, who had gone to check the blood altar, had also come down from the mountaintop and landed beside Broken Throat. "We didn't find anything," One-Eyed said. "I'm possible." Broken Throat frowned deeply. "Could it be Yu Meng struggling to survive?" Severed Hand asked. "No," Broken Throat said flatly. "That's right, Yu Meng would turn back into a tree as soon as he approaches this mountain. They can't get near the blood altar," One-Eyed said. "If it's not Yu Meng, could it be another member of the beast race?" Severed Hand asked. Broken Throat did not speak further. He slowly lifted his head, took another look over the entire withered forest, then waved his hand and disappeared from the spot. Severed Hand and One-Eyed exchanged glances and immediately followed. Xiang Beifei was still standing in the same place, motionless. About half an hour later, he leaped out, carrying the sapling and crossed outward. As he reached the edge of the withered forest, he found that the space here was still sealed. The withered forest seemed to be shrouded by an invisible boundary. This was not a system space lockdown. Xiang Beifei couldn't just pass through it directly. But this time he wasn't stumped. Xiaohe quickly slapped a brick onto the empty seal in space, and immediately golden patterns rippled out, fixing the forbidden seal in place. Then he climbed over the boundary and left the range of the withered forest. However, he hadn't walked 2 steps when suddenly, a terrifying aura pressed down on him. This aura was extremely powerful, and it was the 4th perception that had not yet revealed itself. Boom! The spot where Xiang Beifei stood was directly hit by a thick black tentacle, creating a huge deep pit. Xiang Beifei didn't ask any further questions. Merely regarding Tang he thoughtfully. Tang he was an ordinary person, there was no mistaking that, as he had a system interface which was still rapidly updating. His Pajun Eye system, was a scouting type, capable of swiftly identifying an opponent's weaknesses and defeating them through those vulnerabilities. Everything displayed in his system log seemed normal. Xiang Beifei's sharp eyes could not be deceived. However, what struck Xiang Beifei as odd was, this guy, for some unknown reason, carried a faint trace of ghost mustache of Remnant Visage's essence. Was it because he had encountered an attack from the ghost mustache of Remnant Visage, resulting in some residual essence? The moment several individuals appeared, the atmosphere suddenly turned sour. Chun Baiwen, Yu Hongba, Zhu Xinjue, the college team from Yenzhou University. Unexpectedly, they had also shown up here. Zhu Xinjue caught sight of Xiang Beifei among the crowd and felt his heart skip a beat, resentment flickering in his eyes, but he quickly reined it in. Because their alliance with Qingzhou University had already broken down, they had no means to join forces against Xiang Beifei. Upon seeing Xiang Beifei, Yu Hongba and Chun Baiwen were also momentarily surprised. They couldn't help but exchange glances. Just yesterday, they were considering joining forces with Qingzhou University to deal with Xiang Beifei, but they couldn't find him. Instead, Ho Chengguo of Qingzhou University ended up dead. They hadn't expected to encounter Xiang Beifei in this place. Don't panic. He probably doesn't know about yesterday's incident. Chun Baiwen signaled Yu Hongba and the others with a glance, and without speaking, they all understood each other. Yu Hongba steadied himself and said, Xiang Beifei, I've long admired your reputation. I am Yu Hongba, captain of the Yenzhou University team. Chun Baiwen nodded slightly but did not speak. Xiang Beifei looked at the people from Yenzhou University thoughtfully, his gaze sweeping over them, then lingered on Zhu Xinjue before saying after a long pause, How did you all end up here? After we entered this withered forest, we realized something was off. Then we ran up to this mountain. The situation outside is very bad. Did you also encounter those strange tree people just now? Yu Hongba asked. That's right, Xiang Beifei said, his voice betraying nothing. Are you all right? Yu Hongba inquired. Not too bad. Xiang Beifei glanced back at Tang He. Tang He was from Qingzhou University, and their team now seemed to be in a very difficult situation. Tang He also exhibited a shocked expression upon seeing Yu Hongba and the others. He hadn't anticipated encountering people from Yenzhou University, especially since Ho Chengguo from his university had died at Zhu Pengfei's hands. He didn't dare to say much now. Being only a late-stage Qi-controlling SR rank awakener without any teammates around, he was hardly a match for these people from Yenzhou University. How long have you been in this withered forest? Xiang Beifei asked. We entered last night. Yu Hongba answered. Last night? You've been here for almost a day. Xiang Beifei was somewhat surprised. Yes, we came here yesterday evening. Yu Hongba now had no intention of challenging Xiang Beifei. On the contrary, he harbored a hint of wishing to act alongside Xiang Beifei, because their team was also in an extremely difficult situation. This place was simply too eerie, and they were trapped, unable to find a way out. Upon seeing Xiang Beifei, Yu Hongba felt a glimmer of hope arise within him. Xiang Beifei was very strong. Perhaps he had some way out. So, you're all unharmed? Xiang Beifei asked. We had one casualty, Yu Hongba said with a grave tone. Now only 4 of them remained in their team. Have you been on this mountain since last night? Xiang Beifei inquired. Not exactly. Initially, we walked through the withered forest, but then it suddenly got dark and things seemed off, so we ran up the mountain. We realized those tree people didn't dare to follow, so we breathed a sigh of relief. We weren't on this mountain at the start, but on another one. You are that N-grade awakener, Xiang Beifei? Chun Baiwen's expression was uneasy facing Xiang Beifei. He actually didn't want to come forward because Ho Chengguo had lost inexplicably before him, and he hadn't seen how Ho Chengguo had been defeated. If he lost to an N-grade student, his reputation would nearly be ruined. Yet, if he didn't come forward to challenge Xiang Beifei, he would be seen as a coward, indirectly proving that he, a distinguished SSR grade awakener, was afraid of an N-grade. That would mean Xiang Beifei had won without a fight. After all, like Ho Chengguo, He had scorned Liangzhou University for accepting N-grade students and had been persuaded by other universities not to go to Liangzhou University. Having chosen to give up on Liangzhou University, Chen Baiwen, a proud SSR himself, had to prove his worth, didn't he? Xiang Beifei was only calmly watching Zhu Xinjue, but a murderous intent appeared in his eyes. Last time he had not killed this guy, who obviously planned to kill him, so now he must kill Zhu Xinjue. However, as soon as he spoke, he felt his knees bend, and with a snap, he suddenly knelt before Xiang Beifei. Zhu Xinjue and the others were also stunned. Ho Chengguo, what are you doing? Chen Baiwen asked in surprise. Ho Chengguo was also shocked by his own actions. How did he kneel down? Wasn't the plan to make Xiang Beifei step off track? Why did he end up kneeling instead? Ho Chengguo's face turned beet red, and he angrily tried to stand up, only to find that no matter what, he could not get up. But just then, Ho Chengguo, with sharp eyes, suddenly spotted Xiang Beifei's figure and shouted, "He's over there!" This time everyone saw clearly. Xiang Beifei was a real person. The others also saw Xiang Beifei, but due to the flood, it was hard for them to separate themselves. "You Hongba, you help us keep an eye on these SR. The few of us will deal with him," Ho Chengguo yelled. "All right." Yu Hongba had to take care of his own people, otherwise the SR would be directly submerged by the flood. A ruthless look flashed in Zhu Xinjue's eyes, and a giant glass sphere appeared in his hand. Between flashes, the sphere turned into an illusory light, shrouding this void. "Let's see where you can go this time," Zhu Xinjue sneered. The glass sphere was a UR-level spatial system item, capable of rendering any spatial teleportation useless. Since everyone had a forfeit talisman, Zhu Xinjue was worried that Xiang Beifei would escape. Soon, Ho Chengguo, Zhu Xinjue, Chen Baiwen, and He Qiutong had Xiang Beifei surrounded. Their strong aura was no less intimidating than the flood, as they stared tightly at Xiang Beifei. "Xiang Beifei, although I know you're strong, now there are 4 of us. I advise you to forfeit," advised He Qiutong. He Qiutong was unaware of Zhu Xinjue's plan. Her goal was the same as Chen Baiwen's. They just wanted Xiang Beifei out of the game. Xiang Beifei looked indifferently at the 4 people in front of him. "For people easier to deal with than 5. That's right, we don't want to harm you. Just walk away on your own, to avoid any trouble," Chen Baiwen said gravely. However, Ho Chengguo and Zhu Xinjue were filled with endless killing intent. "What are we waiting for? To get him out, we need to take him down first," Ho Chengguo shouted. This time he felt confident enough to face Xiang Beifei, although he didn't know what went wrong during the spar last time. But now it was 4 against 1. No matter how powerful Xiang Beifei was, in his eyes, he was definitely a dead man. Ho Chengguo said through clenched teeth, "Today, I'll make you pay the price." That day he, a grand SSR, was stuffed into a trash bin, utterly losing face. Today he had to kill Xiang Beifei. 3 against 2. Not too bad. Could be worse, Xiang Beifei said. 3 against 2? Zhu Xinjue scoffed. "Have we scared you silly? Can't you even count properly? It's 4 of us against you alone." President Ren is so respected and esteemed. He said that the name is not important, the strength is what matters. A senior who can say such a thing must have a broad mind. He wouldn't bother with trivial matters like names with me, right? As President Ren's proud student, why is your way of handling things inconsistent with his ideals? Xiang Beifei looked at Ho Chengguo with puzzlement and added, "Haven't you even learned the basics from him?" His words were impeccably phrased, first mocking Ren Zhanghai, then immediately elevating Ren Zhanghai to a high status to prevent him from taking issue with Xiang Beifei's mockery about names, and subtly disparaging Ho Chengguo in the process. "You!" Ho Chengguo was so enraged by Xiang Beifei that he turned crimson. In midair, Li Zimu stood there, watching the people below in astonishment and said, "They actually can't tell the difference." The flood here was an illusion created from Li Zimu's poetry realm. Li Zimu's poetry realm had reached a level where it was truly indistinguishable from reality. However, given that Ho Chengguo and Chen Baiwen were both SSR, one system level higher and more advanced in cultivation than him, They theoretically should not have been so embarrassed. Of course they can't tell. Not a single one of them is a spiritual power system awakener, Xiang Beifei said. Xiang Beifei's spiritual power was attached to the illusion created by Li Zimu, so even with his late-stage qi-controlling cultivation, his flood had the power of the meridian opening stage. As for the suppression by system level with Xiang Beifei present, the supposed superiority of the SSR system was just a decoration. He had specifically sought Li Zimu's help to trap this group of people. But after walking a distance, a fork in the road suddenly appeared. Xiang Beifei's figure once again appeared at the fork, but then disappeared again on that path. Which way should we go? Ho Chenggu asked Qin Baiwen frantically. The ghost whiskers of remnant visage were highly intelligent, certainly not inferior to humans, given the capabilities and execution strength they had shown. Unbelievably strong. In order to capture the elite students, they had gone to great lengths to lead the freshmen participating in the newcomer trials into the Withering Forest, and then it was like hunting there, dealing with these students under the watchful eyes of many experts from the Alliance. In order to infiltrate Jojo, they had even gone so far as to dig out their own beast pills and mix them with human hearts, a method that greatly limited their strength. Yet, they still continued to deploy their plans with efforts and maintain strict secrecy, silently blending into Jojo for many years without being discovered. Whether it was Lin Long or Broken Throat, their vigilance was extremely high. To tell the truth, dealing with a cautious ghostly visage like Lin Long wouldn't have been easy if not for Xiang Beifei's unique abilities. Nonetheless, he had managed to gain Lin Long's trust after spending 2 months undercover. Xiang Beifei's discernment was indeed powerful, giving him an edge in this regard. Someone like Broken Throat, if near Jojo, Xiang Beifei surely would have tried to kill, but now he was in the domain of requirement, not on human territory. The domain of requirement was the 4th dangerous area of the outer wilderness, barely touched by humans. With no reinforcements and Elder Luo unable to come to his aid if something happened, Xiang Beifei chose to hide himself first until he had a clearer understanding of the area. Xiang Beifei had already left the territory of the Withering Forest and, guided by the waters of Mao Ho Creek, began to head towards the direction of Chun Ho. As for whether Mao Ho would be occupied by the ghostly visage again, he could not manage that. He couldn't always guard Mao Ho. Xiang Beifei had flown wildly towards the north for 7 days. With his speed, flying for 7 days had still not brought him to Chun Ho, leaving him unsure of just how far Chun Ho was from there. Considering his flying speed, 7 days would have been enough to fly several hundred round trips across the continent of Jojo. Constantly flying at full power also consumed his spiritual power. Seeing a cliff ahead, Xiang Beifei landed on its edge, making sure there were no desolate beasts around before he stopped to rest. This endless expanse, who knows what lies ahead? Gazing into the vast land ahead, Xiang Beifei couldn't help feeling somewhat emotional. He had come directly from Choho to Mao Ho in the domain of requirement, bypassing the tranquil domain entirely. His journey had been like feeling his way across the river by groping for stones, as even the historical records of Jojo did not have detailed accounts of such places. Sometimes he encountered God-refining period desolate beasts along the way. If they didn't trouble him, he didn't bother with them. But if any blind ones attacked him, he let Era handle them. Era was a diligent and capable fighter, loving nothing more than a good fight. After all, victory meant food. Just earlier, an imposing earthbound bear had burrowed out of the ground, attempting to swallow Era whole, but was immediately stomped to death by Era, who then harvested its beast pill. Don't stir up trouble next time. Xiang Beifei flicked Wooden Kirin's head. Woof! Woof! Era lay beside Xiang Beifei, not particularly concerned about the earlier incident, contentedly rolling over. Having just eaten a beast pill and with the rare appearance of the sun, it was a good time to sunbathe and aid digestion. This little sapling hasn't withered. How odd. Xiang Beifei took out Yumong and placed it in the sunlight. He wasn't sure if the sunlight here was useful for Yumong since Xiang Beifei lacked experience in nurturing such creatures. For convenience in carrying, Yumong had always been planted in the breath soil. The breath soil Xiang Beifei owned was different from normal soil, which contains various trace elements essential for plant growth, but his breath soil was just pure sand. extremely clean. Such soil would definitely not support the growth of normal plants, but considering Yumong seemed like a type of desolate beast, and such conscious plants usually liked spiritual power, he decided to give a bit of his own spiritual power to it. Xiang Beifei placed Yumong on a rock, lay down beside it, comfortably stretched, and thought for a moment before injecting some spiritual power into the breath soil. He had been nurturing Yumong with his spiritual power for the past 7 days, during which Yumong's injuries had significantly improved and it had sprouted 2 tender green shoots, indicating effectiveness. Xiang Beifei decided to take a short nap, setting up a protective formation nearby before closing his eyes slightly. Even he needed a rest after continuous travel. Xiaohe also squatted beside him, wagging its tail as it slept. But then, Yumong's leaves suddenly quivered twice. The new shoot on top gently turned, tilting towards Xiang Beifei's side, and soon 2 small cracks appeared on the full small branches beneath the top shoot. The cracks slightly opened, revealing a pair of timid black eyes, the size of green beans, with vague facial features including a small nose and mouth appearing beneath. Yumong blinked its eyes twice and then moved its 2 side branches, which bore leaves like small hands, quietly lowering them slightly. Seeing that Xiang Beifei seemed to be asleep, Yumong propped itself with its side branches on the breath soil and pulled its slender roots out, the roots at its feet splitting into 2 little feet. It then sneaked another glance at Xiang Beifei, and seeing that he was still asleep, turned around stealthily, stretching its small hands and tiptoeing to the edge of the rock, and jumped down. It clearly intended to land on a rock half a meter below, but perhaps it was still too tender, and stumbling with its footing, it fell with a clap to the edge of the rock. Panicking, it stretched its side branches, desperately clutching at the edge, dangling there. Yumong hurriedly tried to pull itself up onto the rock with its little feet. After struggling for a while, its side branches slipped and a trace of panic appeared in its eyes before it fell off the cliff. It hadn't even hit the ground yet, but its vital essence seemed to drain away as if withering right then, and soon it turned into a piece of withered small tree trunk. "Where do you think you can go looking like that?" Xiang Beifei lazily opened his eyes, waved his hand, and, with a sweep of his spiritual power, directly rolled Xiaohe over to him and caught him in his hand. The moment Xiaohe got close to Xiang Beifei, his vitality began to recover, as if recharged with energy and bursting with life again. Xiaohe looked at Xiang Beifei in panic and kept retreating, ran out from Xiang Beifei's palm, and jumped into the crevice underneath, desperately trying to squeeze in, but the crevice was too narrow, and he couldn't fit through. "Once you leave my side, you wither, so where can you run?" Xiang Beifei asked. Xiaohe called out to Xiang Beifei in a milky voice, "You Meng." This call sounded very cute, perhaps similar to a kitten's. "If I wanted to hurt you, you would have been gone already." Xiang Beifei spread his hands. After a moment, he felt curious again. "You Meng." Xiaohe called out softly again, his eyes still full of fear when looking at Xiang Beifei. "All right, we need to learn some Yumeng language," Xiang Beifei said. However, Xiaohe still harbored deep fear towards Xiang Beifei, tightly closed his eyes, his little feet scrabbling in the stone crevice, and quickly burrowed into the soil of the crevice, transforming back into a small sapling, stubbornly refusing to cooperate with Xiang Beifei. "Woof," Xiaohe asked. "It probably thinks I'm an accomplice to the ghost mustache of Remnant Visage," Xiang Beifei explained. Clearly, the ghost mustache of Remnant Visage that massacred the Yumeng resided inside people's bodies, using human appearances to operate. Thus, seeing Xiang Beifei, it subconsciously deemed Xiang Beifei as the murderer of its kin. Xiaohe was so young, obviously just born, and probably couldn't even tell the difference between the ghost mustache of Remnant Visage and people. Xiang Beifei didn't mind, he had rested enough. Then he stood up and said to Xiaohe, "I'm leaving, do you want to come with me?" Xiaohe was unmoved, still standing on the cliff. Xiang Beifei moved his feet and took a small step forward, about 2 meters away. At that moment, one of Xiaohe's side buds began to yellow. Whoosh! Xiaohe moved the side bud towards Xiang Beifei, and the withered leaves turned green again. Xiang Beifei took another step forward. The vitality on Xiaohe's body started to ebb. He slowly bent down, stood for a moment, but finally couldn't stand it anymore, stealthily pulled out his little feet, moved a little towards Xiang Beifei, and then burrowed back into the soil, finally straightening his back again. Xiang Beifei chuckled wryly. This little guy looked quite stubborn. Xiang Beifei was in no hurry, slowly moved another step, maintaining a distance that would make Xiaohei wither, and Xiaohei couldn't bear it anymore, pulled his feet out of the soil, and rushed towards Xiang Beifei again. But this time, before he could take root, Xiang Beifei moved forward again. Xiaohei could only follow clumsily once more, but his walk was awkward. He stumbled every 3 steps and almost turned into a muggle. "You can jump over here." Xiang Beifei rolled the breath soil over to Xiaohei's feet. Xiaohei held his head high, looked away with a very "I'd rather wither and exhaust myself leaping off this cliff than compromise" attitude. But the breath soil exuded a strong spiritual power, temptingly fragrant, attracting him. He held his head high, still refusing to look at Xiang Beifei, quite temperamental. However, his body betrayed him. His little feet couldn't help but probe into the breath soil. Yu Meng. Xiaohei rooted in the richly spiritual power-infused breath soil, finding it so comfortable that he couldn't help but moan out loud. However, he quickly realized something and hurriedly covered his own mouth with his 2 side buds. Silly buns. Xiang Beifei smiled slightly and after a while, touched his chin and mused, "Strange, aren't you supposed to turn human only at night? Isn't it still daytime now?" He grew more and more curious about Xiaohei. Yu Meng rarely transformed into a human. Initially, in the Withering Forest when Xiang Beifei and his people approached, they did not let them take on a human form. It was only when the night fell that they began to change. But now, basking in this warm sunlight, with light so abundant, it didn't look like night. Could it be that these Yu Meng kept to their own biological clocks? It's known that in many places of the outer domain wilderness, the distinction between day and night is clear. If the Yomeng's transformations between human and tree followed their own routines, that wouldn't be strange at all. Thinking this, Xiang Beifei took the young Yu Meng and left the cliff, continuing on their journey. The little Yu Meng still seemed distrustful of Xiang Beifei, so Xiang Beifei entrusted it to Xiaohei and Era. Era was carefree and did not reject the young Yu Meng, occasionally nudging it with his tail and pulling faces. Actually, Era was simple-minded and amiable to everyone. As long as no offense was given, it was easy to get along with. Xiaohei, on the other hand, was very enthusiastic, communicating with the young Yu Meng with its bark language. It was unclear if the little Yu Meng understood, as it normally wouldn't be able to see Xiaohei. But when it came to visibility, it was all about whether Xiaohei wished to be seen or not. In Xiaohei's presence, the little Yu Meng didn't seem as afraid. Perhaps it was because Xiaohei didn't look like the ghost mustache of remnant visage, at least not having a human's visage, and even curiously emitted a few sounds. And woof woof from Xiaohei would prompt a reply of yu yu from the little Yu Meng. Although incomprehensible, it was a good start. When with Xiaohei and Era, the young Yu Meng's guard was much lower. It would also sneak glances at Xiang Beifei when he wasn't paying attention, its small eyes filled with confusion. In its mind, Xiang Beifei closely resembled those who had violated its species. It wondered why he would rescue it, moreover using soil rich with spiritual power. It had a deep animosity towards Xiang Beifei and his race, but the soil was really comfortable. However, as soon as Xiang Beifei turned to look at it, it immediately rustled its leaves, shut its eyes, and stood still, pretending to be a tree. Another dummy. Xiang Beifei considered naming it Ersan, or Third Fool. He continued on his way. By his own time, it had only been 24 hours, but he had experienced countless days and nights in the outer domain wilderness. Often, 3 minutes of walking would bring daylight, 5 minutes would lead to night. Soon, he found that his guess was probably wrong. The little Yu Meng still occasionally opened its eyes to respond to Xiaohei. It seemed to have no intention of being a tree by day and human by night. How strange. The outer domain wilderness was truly immense. Xiang Beifei could not yet confirm if he was still in Yuyu. There were no pioneering points carved out by trailblazers here, no sense of safety. Xiang Beifei had now come to a plain. The plain was barren, with vegetation growing low, mostly shrubs here and there, with all the rest being various mud and stones. These clods and stones were odd, as if they had only recently been overturned by something. Many patches of soil were still moist, as if a great turmoil had just taken place, or as though someone had been digging the ground, turning it over. Awoo! Era sniffed around on the ground, eyeing the strange plants curiously. The only plant here was tiger thorn, but tiger thorn is not a domineering kind of vegetation. It doesn't suppress other plants but tends to coexist with many. The plants don't grow much here. It seems only tiger thorn can survive. There must be something wrong over there, Xiang Beifei said. He approached a tiger thorn and pulled it from the ground. Its roots ran deep, about 10 meters into the soil. He tossed the tiger thorn aside, and its roots quickly burrowed back into the earth, standing upright once more. Tiger thorn was a type of vegetation with incredible vitality. As long as one of its rhizomes remained, it could grow back. Was there a battle here recently? Xiang Beifei examined the soil on the ground and looked for traces of other desolate beasts but found nothing. The compass of the divining stream still pointed ahead, indicating that to reach Chenhou, he needed to cross this plain. Without much hesitation, he flew onwards. Looking out, the vast plain stretched endlessly. After about 10 minutes of flying, there was a sudden boom from the ground, a thunderous explosion. Xiang Beifei stopped immediately, watching the ground warily. But the mud started churning, like ocean waves, the only difference being waves of soil. Splash! It was as if something had shaken the earth, creating layers of waves, lifting countless rocks, with the soil appearing newly turned. What's this? Xiang Beifei watched the rolling soil with surprise. The waves moved rapidly away and soon only the disarrayed ground remained. This wave's nature was unknown, but it was immensely destructive and accompanied by a terrifying howling noise, a continuous rumble. Woof? Asked Xiaohe. Not sure, but at least now we know why there are no other plants here, said Xiang Beifei. On this plain, the ground was like a sea, suddenly churning, flinging mud in all directions. No plants could survive under such conditions. It was no wonder that only the tenacious tiger thorn could thrive here. That was the reason. Roar! At that moment, a deafening sound came from the distance, like some desolate beast roaring. The sound directly struck the soul, causing ears to buzz while the ground once again heaved up a massive wave of earth from beneath their feet. You! Yumong cried out in fright as if terrified by the sound, covering his ears as if overwhelmed by the terrifying surge. Don't worry. Xiang Beifei swept out his spiritual power, instantly blocking out the surrounding noises. Yumong glanced timidly at Xiang Beifei, pouting and looking somewhat unappreciative before squeezing towards Xiaohe, then stealing another glance at Xiang Beifei. Xiang Beifei searched the surroundings. After the wave of sound had passed, all was calm as if nothing had emerged or attacked them, which he found strange. There's something eerie about this place. Xiang Beifei didn't stop, continuing to fly in the direction pointed by the stream's compass, flying for about 10 minutes. At that time, 2 huge pillars suddenly appeared ahead. The pillars were gray, 100 meters tall and several meters thick, wrapped in a layer of stone skin with moss growing on it, and there seemed to be small holes in the pillars. From one pillar, strands of red mist billowed out, resembling some kind of poisonous gas, somewhat eerie. Upon seeing these tall stone pillars, Xiang Beifei inexplicably felt a strange sensation stir within him. Awoo! The wooden Kirin, curious, flew towards the 2 pillars, peeking into a large hole in the pillar, but discovered nothing unusual. Era, don't cause trouble. Let's keep moving, Xiang Beifei said. Adhering to the principle of avoiding trouble whenever unnecessary, he wouldn't linger unless needed, but Era suddenly discovered something, gesturing with its hoof towards Xiang Beifei, pointing at marks on the pillar. Frowning, Xiang Beifei flew over and approached the pillars. In the earth beneath the pillar, Xiang Beifei soon saw a strange plastic artifact, originally made from extremely tough material, which even masters of the orifice transforming stage found hard to damage. Isn't this a manufacturing process unique to Jojo? Xiang Beifei quickly recognized the plastic item because it had the Jojo factory's serial number on it. He had left Jojo not knowing how far and had arrived at the frontier without even knowing whether he was still in the frontier. Fundamentally, barely anyone ventured here. To see a plastic artifact made by the people of Jojo here was quite a surprise for Xiang Beifei. He picked up the damaged object, which was actually shattered as if crushed by some immense force. Instantly, Xiang Beifei used Return to the Original State to repair it, quickly restoring the fragmented plastic artifact into a red bead, the size of a thumb, while a strange aura emanated from it. Upon sensing this fluctuation, he suddenly startled. The fluctuation felt incredibly familiar, but for the moment, he couldn't recall where it was from. Just as he was about to investigate more carefully, the nearby pillar suddenly let out a huge roar, bending down and sweeping toward them. What the hell is that? Xiang Beifei suddenly came to his senses, lifted his head, and found Era poking its large tail into a small hole in the pillar, while Xiaohei and Yumong were squatting on Era's head, curiously peeking into the hollow of the pillar but were also startled by the sudden movement of the pillar. Era, what are you doing? Xiang Beifei quickly rolled over, then leaped to the side, dodging the pillar's attack, while Era also jumped back in fright. Awoo! Awoo awoo! Era indicated that it just wanted to see what was inside the pillar, but at that moment, the entire plain was suddenly covered with sand and soil, as if a terrifying giant beast was gradually awakening and began to surge from the ground. Bang! 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 The ground soil exploded into countless holes. A powerful aura swept out from each hole, the sound deafening. At the same time, an extremely terrifying oppressive force descended from the sky. Come back quickly, Xiang Beifei shouted. Era, followed by Xiaohei and Yumong, quickly ran towards Xiang Beifei. They had just reached him when the ground bulged enormously, as if the entire area within hundreds of miles had suddenly overturned. The ground seemed to turn into the sky, and the sky became the ground with stones everywhere, pressing down on them. Xiang Beifei was also greatly startled. He saw an extremely shocking scene. A nearly kilometer-tall giant claw stretched out from the ground, slammed onto the ground, and the entire ground seemed about to shatter, unable to withstand its powerful impact and breaking further. But this was just one giant claw. A mile away, a hill seemed to rise up. Xiang Beifei thought it was a geological change, that the soil had formed a hill, but he soon realized he was wrong. It wasn't a hill at all, but a huge head. This head was terrifyingly large, the whole head perhaps thousands of meters tall, its top covered with broken stones. As it poked its head out, it also shook off the soil on its head, and suddenly, the entire land seemed to endure a mud-rock deluge. Only then did Xiang Beifei clearly see the giant beast with the 1,000-meter-tall head in front of him. The beast's face revealed a massive eye, hundreds of meters in length, deep brown in color, sweeping through the soil, seemingly filled with anger, searching for who had disturbed its beautiful dream. What exactly have you done? How did you provoke such a terrifying creature? Xiang Beifei asked incredulously. Era and Xiaohei scratched their heads, indicating they didn't know either. They just wanted to see what was inside the pillar. Who could have imagined it wasn't a pillar at all, but seemed like some part of the giant desolate beast's body? At that moment, the terrifying large eye suddenly turned towards Xiang Beifei. Roar! An angry roar emitted from the ugly vast head, and a tremendous oppressive force thundered towards Xiang Beifei. Xiang Beifei gasped. The tremendous momentum bursting from this colossal beast likely had the presence of heavenly connection. To think it was a heavenly connection realm desolate beast. Yumong Yu shrieked, also terrified by the sudden appearance of the giant desolate beast. It was initially on Xiaohei's back, but the surge of momentum caused it to lose balance and drop onto Xiang Beifei's shoulder. It immediately didn't care about anything else and burrowed into Xiang Beifei's clothes, clutching tightly onto Xiang Beifei's shirt from within his chest pocket. Without any hesitation, Xiang Beifei turned and ran. If it were a heavenly connection realm martial artist, Xiang Beifei was certainly capable of grappling with them, making them struggle to look after themselves. But the problem was that this was a terrifying, desolate beast. Xiang Beifei also had his own methods for dealing with desolate beasts, knowing their weaknesses as long as he recognized the beast. However, he had never seen this particular desolate beast before. Not to mention, he had never seen anything so huge. Just its head alone was thousands of meters tall. What in the world was this extraterritorial desolate land? And did this creature need to be so capriciously massive? Boom! 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 All around, stones were flying everywhere. These stones also possessed extremely potent sealing abilities, effectively locking down the entire wilderness. Waves of terrifying auras bombarded from all directions towards Xiang Beifei.